Chapter 9:15. The vacuum god explosive bomb was shot out. The space became silent in an instant, as if time had stopped in the world. Immediately after, the space shook violently. It was even more terrifying than the shattering of the void. The distance between Qi Tianhe and Yu Yang, no matter if it was the air, the ice, or the sky, they were all shattered in an instant. Everything turned into nothingness and was annihilated. Even its master, Qi Tianhe, couldn't withstand this kind of power easily. He covered his face with his hands and retreated backwards. Qi Tianhe wasn't worried that his body would be destroyed, because he had an indestructible divine body. Unless it was a god, no one could destroy his body. The crazily expanding shock wave spread 30 kilometers away and still showed no signs of subsiding. The solid ice on the ground was destroyed into ice foam. Amidst the shock wave, the ice foam covered the sky and the sun. Princess Sisai, who had already retreated far away, used the prison emperor divine sword to block the shock wave, but she still couldn't stand steadily. She protected Xiaonu, who was behind her, tightly. The two of them slid back for 1,000 meters before they could barely support themselves. The storm goddess general, who was preparing to assist Qi Tianhe, was sent flying. She first landed on an ice peak, then along with the collapsed ice peak, she was thrown a few hundred meters away. She was buried in the snow and disappeared. A full 3 minutes passed. However, the shattered void was still unable to recover. The shattered ice and snow in the surroundings were like an ice storm, covering the sky and causing darkness in a radius of 100 miles. What a hateful ant! Qi Tianhe snorted proudly and angrily. Although he had killed his enemy in an instant, he was still unhappy. This kind of victory couldn't bring him too much pleasure. On the contrary, using this kind of forbidden technique to deal with a weak human ant was a disgrace. Fortunately, he had won in the end. Otherwise, he would be even more unhappy. Qi Tianhe thought that he should first catch up to the two girls and use the cruelest method to kill them, then absorb their divine power and snatch their divine equipment. As for the storm goddess general buried under the snow, Qi Tianhe felt that it was unnecessary to kill her. This was because she was a guardian beast. Furthermore, it was extremely difficult to kill a divine general. It was possible to defeat her, but it was almost impossible to kill a divine general who was gradually condensing a unique divine spark. Besides, in a world of ice and snow, the storm goddess was almost an immortal existence in such a terrain. Just as Qi Tianhe was preparing to fly up and chase after the distant Princess Sisai and Xiaonu, he suddenly discovered that at the place where the shattered space was mending, the man who should have died but didn't really die as a human was actually still alive. She couldn't help but cry out in surprise, "This is impossible!" The power of the vacuum divine bomb was something that even a god would frown upon. Without a god's body, it was impossible to resist that kind of destructive power. How did this ant-like human man withstand it? Even space had exploded, and everything was annihilated and turned into nothingness. How exactly did this brat survive? Most importantly, Qi Tianhe discovered that not only did this brat not die, he wasn't even injured. From the looks of it, not even a single strand of hair was lost. It was already inconceivable that his arms and legs were continuously broken, and his intestines and stomach were blown into the sky. How exactly did this result where his body wasn't injured at all? Yu Yang wasn't injured, but his face was full of pain. Amidst the pain, there was also an unbearable sense of comfort. It was like an ordinary person walking barefoot on a small stone path paved with sharp stones and having their feet massaged. If he didn't die from the explosions, could it be that he would feel comfortable like this? Qi Tianhe simply couldn't imagine it. He could only deny it. Impossible. No matter what the reason is, you're dead for sure. You're definitely dead. Qi Tianhe was furious and furious. His body seemed like it was about to explode as he circulated his godly power that could shake mountains and rivers and flew towards Yu Yang. Fists rained down like rain. They landed solidly on Yu Yang's body. Regardless of whether it was his head, face, or his limbs, they were all bombarded by the rain of fists. Yu Yang could only curl up his body to protect himself. It seemed like he couldn't escape at this moment, let alone counterattack. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. Wave after wave of fists infused with godly power bombarded Yu Yang's body like cannonballs. Qi Tianhe's heart was filled with hatred. You won't die from the explosions? I'll beat you to death. I'll smash you into pieces. I'll smash you into mincemeat. I'll smash you into ashes. Let's see if you can still live. He didn't know how long he had been fighting for. He estimated that he had attacked no less than 10,000 fists. Even Qi Tianhe, who possessed a divine body, felt a little tired. After all, he had first used the vacuum divine explosive bomb with all his strength and then bombarded with 10,000 fists with all his strength. If he didn't possess a divine body, an ordinary martial artist's body would have already collapsed. In the end, Qi Tianhe condensed an incomparably huge scarlet sky divine fireball and smashed Yu Yang inside. Then, before the scarlet sky divine fireball exploded, he dealt a heavy blow. His hands cleverly struck that incomparably huge scarlet sky divine fireball. At the same time, he used his thoughts to direct it to break through the void and bring along his enemy's body, disappearing into the void forever. It didn't matter if there was a huge explosion inside or if it continued to burn silently like this. The enemy would undoubtedly die. That was because the enemy that brought the Scarlet Sky Divine Fireball into the void couldn't return to their original world. This was one of the 3 secret trump cards. At the same time, it was also one of the 3 great forbidden techniques. Divine Flame Burial. The Scarlet Sky Divine Fireball brought along Yu Yang and smashed into the void. It was like the destruction of the sun as it entered the eternal void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Qi Tianhe didn't have 100% confidence like he did when he used the vacuum divine explosive bomb. He kept staring at the crack in the void. He was afraid that Yu Yang would escape from inside. If that was really the case, he wouldn't mind using his final and strongest forbidden technique to deal with him. If he really used that forbidden technique, it would definitely harm Qi Tianhe's body. Of course, the destructive power of that technique would definitely be more than 10 times greater than the combined might of the previous 2 forbidden techniques. He kept looking at the shattered space as it slowly mended itself. Yu Yang didn't escape in the end. Qi Tianhe secretly heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Sometimes, he was really a little afraid that he wouldn't be able to kill this human male who was clearly as weak as an ant but had an incomparably tenacious life. No one would believe him if he told others about this. A dignified deity actually couldn't deal with a mortal? Boom! The storm goddess heavily bombarded Qi Tianhe's left and right ears with her fists. Qi Tianhe felt a little dizzy. How did her battle prowess suddenly increase by several dozen times? Just now, she clearly used her protective divine power to send him flying. How did this happen? Fortunately, her valiant divine body eliminated the damage from the attack. The dizziness subsided in less than half a second. The power in Qi Tianhe's body rose sharply, and he forced the storm goddess back. He first shook his slightly dizzy head, and then snorted arrogantly, "Get lost! I don't want to do meaningless things. With your strength, it's impossible for you to harm me. Tell your master that even if he obtained the blue god spark, he will never be a match for me. Get lost." He pushed with both hands, and the storm goddess was forced back by 100 meters. Just as Qi Tianhe turned around for the second time, and was about to leave in a carefree manner to chase after Princess Sisai and Xiaonu, he suddenly saw something unbelievable from the corner of his eyes. A hand suddenly reached out from the space that was mending. First, it felt around as if it was looking for a door handle or a handle. Then, a 6-pointed star pattern appeared in the void and shone faintly. Immediately after, that hand seemed to have grabbed something and opened a door in the space. Under Qi Tianhe's incredulous gaze, Yu Yang came out from the door in a sorry state. His hair was blown up like a chicken's nest, and his face was also black. However, his body was strangely uninjured. Qi Tianhe's jaw dropped to the ground. Yu Yang's face that was blown up black revealed a smile. He nodded towards Qi Tianhe and greeted him as if they were old acquaintances. Then, he carefully closed the door of the space. You didn't die? Qi Tianhe asked in astonishment. I shouldn't have. Yu Yang nodded and confirmed, although the primal chaos energy in the endless void is very terrifying, fortunately, my teacher is an expert who is proficient in teleportation. I stayed in there for a while and found my way out. I understand your feelings. You must have suffered a great blow, right? Please allow me to express my deep sympathy and condolences to you. Of course, I also thank you. Thank you? Qi Tianhe was even more shocked. Yes, if it wasn't for your vacuum god explosive bomb and whatever god's fire burial, I wouldn't have been able to fuse with this immemorial rune immediately. This is extremely difficult, I believe you also know. With your selfless help and the timely delivery of me to the endless void, allowing my body and the immemorial rune to absorb the origin energy of the universe and resonate with each other, I finally succeeded. Speaking of which, I really have to thank you. If it wasn't for you, I reckon that I would need at least half a year or even longer to fuse with it completely. Even if I fused with it, it wouldn't be as perfect as it is now. Yu Yang expressed that he was extremely moved. He wanted to get a banner with the words, "Shake the country to prosperity, protect the capital's peace and tranquility," written on it and gift it to Qi Tianhe. As for why he used the word shake instead of defend, the experts had already said that the word shake wasn't a typo. This word shake made it seem heavy. Of course, whatever the experts said was right. As long as they didn't change the word shake to regret, it would already seem very kind. No, it should be heavy. Qi Tianhe was so angry that his nose became crooked. A mere mortal actually couldn't even be beaten to death like this. After throwing him into the endless void, he still managed to successfully fuse with the immemorial rune. This was simply illogical. Could it be that he really had to use his final forbidden technique to kill this brat? While Qi Tianhe was still hesitating, it was Yu Yang's turn to counterattack. After suffering 10,000 punches, although the immemorial rune would fuse a little more with every punch, it was still very painful. Yu Yang, who never suffered losses, decided to repay Qi Tianhe with this kind of help. Moreover, it was 10 times, 100 times more. Didn't you punch me 10,000 times? Alright, it's my turn to repay you with 100,000 punches. If you're not satisfied, then what if I reward you with another 10,000 punches? Yu Yang pounced towards Qi Tianhe. Just as Qi Tianhe was about to make his move, the eternal wheel appeared between the two of them. Yu Yang, who had already fused with the immemorial rune, and the immemorial rune's mysterious power simultaneously boosted the eternal wheel. Qi Tianhe realized that even though he had a divine body, he was still instantly frozen, completely unable to move. Under the amplification of the immemorial rune, the eternal wheel had practically reached the realm of conferred God. This was even before Yu Yang had fused the immemorial rune with the eternal wheel. Otherwise, Qi Tianhe would be stuck in this eternal wheel for eternity. Unless Yu Yang's will dispelled it, he would never be able to break free. Chapter 9:16. Yu Yang retaliated with a torrential storm of attacks, landing on Qi Tianhe's body. At first, it wasn't fast. Gradually, the attacks became faster and faster. In the end, the punches were as dense as rain, and the momentum was endless. Qi Tianhe couldn't remember how many punches he received. If he didn't have the immortal god body, Qi Tianhe felt that even if he was twice as strong, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Unknowingly, the eternal wheel flickered with the passage of time. The instant it completely disappeared, Qi Tianhe did not escape. Instead, he forcefully used his palm to receive Yu Yang's fist amidst the raindrop-like attacks. Have you had enough yet? He grabbed Yu Yang's fists with both hands and summoned the boundless god power in his body. He pulled Yu Yang off the ground. He was flung high up, and then smashed down heavily. Amidst the crazy smashing that shattered the space, Yu Yang's head smashed down fiercely. The irresistible power caused half of Yu Yang's body to sink into the endless void. While holding Yu Yang down, he sneered arrogantly, "No matter how many punches you throw, I won't be injured at all, because I have a god body, an immortal god body. If you want to defeat me with a few strange skills and the strength of an ant, then I can tell you that you will never be able to do it, never. What am I? I am a god, and you are just a pitiful mortal. This is the biggest difference between us, and also the gap that you will never be able to cross. Even if you are a god, I can still kill you." Yu Yang's eyes were filled with killing intent. Dream on. Seeing his soaring killing intent, Qi Tianhe couldn't help but feel a trace of unease even though he was confident. This brat's killing intent was really too heavy. The storm goddess general took advantage of the deadlock and suddenly attacked again. Her fists landed on Qi Tianhe's left and right ears for the third time. This time, her strength was 10 times stronger than the previous 2 times combined. Qi Tianhe's entire body swayed from the impact. The first thought that came to his mind was that this guardian beast actually knew how to hide its strength. If it was based on this kind of strength, it would be impossible for it to be sent flying with a single punch from him. According to this kind of strength, this guardian beast's strength was actually not much weaker than his own. Qi Tianhe, who had a splitting headache, felt very angry in his heart. He also felt the humiliation of being deceived. His opponent possessed the strength of a divine general, yet he had thought that he could send him flying with a casual strike. He had been too careless. The scarlet sky divine flame was ignited along with Qi Tianhe's fury. It erupted like a volcano, and a golden energy clone drilled out of his head with an irresistible force. It brandished its golden meteor-like fists and counterattacked. The storm goddess was forced to retreat several dozen meters. Danger reappeared. Qi Tianhe discovered that both he and his energy clone had come to a standstill. Its might was similar to the Wheel of Eternity, but it carried an irresistible pressure. It was as if an unknown divine light shone over, causing Qi Tianhe and his energy clone to feel an intense, scorching heat. No, this wasn't an injury on the surface, but a judgment in their souls. A small hand that was like a white orchid slowly extended forward from its original position of holding the shining ball of light. Closed into a fist. In the end, it lightly hit Qi Tianhe's forehead. That kind of strength was too gentle. It couldn't even kill a mosquito. However, Qi Tianhe felt that his soul and his mind was being attacked by a terrifying energy. This energy wasn't any weaker than the Storm Goddess General's. It followed the traces of the Storm Goddess General's injuries and continued to penetrate deeper and spread, giving his soul a heavy blow. His soul instinctively protected itself with divine power, instantly cutting off the connection with the outside world. The soft hand that couldn't harm Qi Tianhe rotated in a spiral and released its strength. Qi Tianhe's frontal bone was cracked by her hidden attack. Moreover, the energy clone that was originally connected to Qi Tianhe's mind was forcefully dragged out of his body by the Storm Goddess General. She coordinated with Yu Yang's movements and placed the energy clone on the Nirvana Flame Pillar in Yu Yang's palm, allowing it to be purified by the Nirvana Flame Pillar. This movement was extremely similar to a human's barbecue. However, she was using the Nirvana Flame to purify Qi Tianhe's remaining mind in the energy clone. Ah no! When Qi Tianhe forcefully used his divine power to repel the enemy's unknown energy invading his brain, he discovered that his energy clone had already turned into a ball of masterless pure energy. He cried out involuntarily. At this moment, he discovered that the Storm Goddess General wasn't the only one hiding her strength. There was also the weak, little Lamia Loli. This little Lamia Loli's strength wasn't inferior to the Storm Goddess General's. In fact, her innate skills and attack timing were even better. It seemed as if this little Lamia Loli was a veteran that had experienced millions of battles. It seemed as if she had been bathed in blood and fought in countless battles of death. She wasn't as young and weak as she looked. Qi Tianhe was shocked not only by the opponent's ability to conceal her strength, but also the power of her will. Faintly, he felt that this little Lamia Loli had a stronger will than him, a god. Even if she was a divine beast and possessed a divine beast's will, it shouldn't be able to surpass him, right? He was a god. Why was this so? Losing the energy clone was already impossible to reverse. Without spiritual control, the energy clone that had collapsed due to the opponent's spiritual attack was undoubtedly like a ball of snow falling into soup under the nirvana flame. It was impossible to take over again. The only thing he could do now was to completely destroy this hateful human man in front of him. As long as he was killed, then this little Lamia Loli, who was his guardian beast, would also die. As for the storm woman behind him, he would also have to kill her master. An enemy with this kind of strength definitely couldn't be allowed to live. He had to use a forbidden technique. Otherwise, he wouldn't have any chance of winning this battle. Qi Tian had discovered that he really couldn't kill his opponent. Unless he used a forbidden technique that would greatly damage his body. You're a god? Are you crazy? Yu Yang's killing intent soared. First, he summoned his grimoire and gave the energy ball that he obtained from purifying the energy clone to the world to absorb. Normally, he wouldn't do this, but the current Yu Yang simply didn't have time to deal with it. With weakening the enemy as his first goal, Yu Yang generously gave the energy ball to the world. Next, he cast 5 giant shadows on Little Wen Li and the Storm Goddess General, raising their strength to the limit. Qi. Little Wen Li held her twin blades in her hands and glared at Qi Tianhe for the second time. Her binding inherent skill erupted. The Storm Goddess General took advantage of the fact that Little Wen Li had frozen Qi Tianhe and spent 2 whole seconds to gather her strength. In the 3rd second, when Qi Tianhe was about to struggle free, her fists, which had been strengthened by the giant shadows, struck Qi Tianhe's ears for the 4th time. Boom! This time, even someone as strong as Qi Tianhe couldn't hold on any longer. His left and right ears exploded and his eardrums shattered. The power that went straight to his brain shook it into a mess. Qi Tianhe's ear fluid and blood splattered out as he howled in pain. Qi Tianhe howled for the first time. His voice was deafening like the cries of thousands of soldiers and horses. He lost his balance due to his heavy injuries. The moment he fell to the ground, Yu Yang raised the Prison Emperor Divine Seal with both of his hands and smashed it heavily on Qi Tianhe's forehead. The wound that Little Wen Li had previously struck Qi Tianhe's forehead was aggravated. The Prison Emperor Divine Seal released a might that could suppress the heavens and earth. With just one smash, it surpassed the Storm Goddess General's 4 attacks. It directly dented Qi Tianhe's forehead. This was the power that Yu Yang could unleash when he hadn't obtained its approval. If Yu Yang had completely fused with it, Qi Tianhe's head might have been smashed into pieces. Those who were heavily injured like Qi Tianhe would suffer a backlash. With both of his hands on the ground, he used his remaining leg to kick Yu Yang's chest in desperation. However, Yu Yang was 10 times crazier than him. He rushed into Qi Tianhe's embrace without a care for anything. He raised the power of the ancient code and a trace of disaster god power he could control to the limit. The golden beast jumped out and transformed into the sky-reaching blade. It slid into his hands and fiercely pierced into Qi Tianhe's chest under Yu Yang's shouts. Qi Tianhe still wanted to use his god power to resist when the blade entered his body. Yu Yang went berserk. His face looked sinister because he used too much strength. He forced the sky-reaching blade with both of his hands and stepped on Qi Tianhe's chest. The primal chaos origin power that he had obtained after purifying the disaster god power in the Valley of Desire completely erupted. He pushed forward with all his might under the Gui Tsang sword. Puff! The sky-reaching blade directly pierced through Qi Tianhe's chest and back. Even Qi Tianhe, who was hit by the sword, was stunned by this kind of irresistible destructive power. A weapon that could injure a god's body? An earth god weapon? No, a heavenly god weapon? Qi Tianhe, who couldn't find an answer, felt that he was already in a dangerous situation. If he didn't reverse the situation, he would be in danger. The enemy's next step might be to use this god weapon to chop off his head. God blood, sacrifice? Qi Tianhe's eyes flashed with fear as he kicked away the madman Yu Yang. He leaped into the air and used his right hand to drill into the bloody hole in his chest. He extracted a lump of golden god blood and muttered to himself. It seemed like he wanted to sacrifice this lump of god blood. His body suddenly emitted countless rays of light. It seemed like every inch of his skin and every pore was gushing with thousands of kinds of divine light. Qi Tianhe, who was bathed in the multicolored divine light, quickly enlarged. He became a scarlet giant that was 10 meters, 20 meters, and 30 meters tall at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, a scarlet river of blood appeared around his body. It was full of spirituality and surrounded him. This was the greatest forbidden technique of Qi Tianhe's life. It was the Scarlet Blood Celestial River, a technique where he sacrificed his own god blood to kill 1,000 enemies. If it wasn't for the fact that he was at the most critical moment of life and death, Qi Tianhe definitely wouldn't use this forbidden technique. This was because once he used it, he wouldn't be able to recover to his peak state for 1,000 years. In fact, he might even be in a weakened state for a long time. Let's see whose ultimate technique is stronger. Yu Yang also went all out. The Wheel of Eternity was born under his feet. At the same time, it transformed into the Wheel of Destruction. The Wheel of Destruction was crazily pushed by his supreme will and the power of the immemorial runes. It started from the bottom and spun upwards. It sliced towards Qi Tianhe. In the sky, the instant Qi Tianhe stopped recovering, he activated all of his god power and caused the Scarlet Blood Celestial River to truly explode like a heavenly river. It rushed towards the top of Yu Yang's head. The ultimate techniques of the two erupted at the same time. Chapter 9:17. The Scarlet Blood Milky Way was like a waterfall from the 9 heavens as it slammed into Yu Yang's head. In an instant, he was pushed several hundred meters into the frozen ground. The huge impact created a huge pit in the ground. The scarlet blood was like fire, boiling within the pit and making sizzling sounds. Under its burning, the hard frozen ground continuously melted into magma, forming a terrifyingly hot pool of blood. The storm goddess was looking at her arm. Only a drop of scarlet blood had splashed onto her arm, but her ice-cold arm was also on fire. A hole had already been burned through the small spot of scarlet blood. This was the power of the scarlet blood, and Yu Yang, who was under the blood pool, was bearing the full brunt of its power. Little One Li, who had never left Yu Yang's side, was staring at the blood pool with a solemn expression. If it was any other time, she would have already jumped in to save Yu Yang. But now, she didn't move at all. Even when the storm goddess flew closer and wanted to look at Yu Yang, who was in the blood pool, she shook her head and waved her hands lightly, signaling the storm goddess not to go forward. She continued to float above the blood pool, ignoring the blood pool that was getting bigger and bigger and boiling more and more. The storm goddess was a little confused, but she knew one thing. When Yu Yang wasn't here, it was best for her to listen to the little Lamia. On the other side, Yu Yang and Qi Tianhe were fighting back. They were also acting strangely. Qi Tianhe's hands suddenly fell from midair. There was a look of disbelief on his face, as if he couldn't believe that he, who possessed a divine body, could be injured by the enemy's attack. Qi Tianhe instinctively leaned forward and stretched out his bloody arms, wanting to grab the pair of broken hands, completely forgetting that they had already been severed by the Wheel of Destruction. And it was precisely this action that aggravated some of the hidden injuries. His only leg had been silently severed. It was 100 times sharper than being cut by the sharpest divine sword in the world. His only leg had been severed at the knee, and the wound didn't even have time to bleed. Qi Tianhe, who was half leaning, fell to the ground with an even more shocked expression. Only now did he realize that his only remaining leg had also been severed by the wheel of destruction. The pair of severed hands and the ball of divine blood in the middle. He fell into the boiling scarlet blood pool. White smoke billowed out. The moment the god's blood fused into the blood pool, Yu Yang, whose entire body was naked and covered in runes, darted out. He grabbed the two broken hands with one hand and the god's blood with the other. His body was steaming hot. The scarlet blood on the skin outside of the runes was crazily corroding his body, but it was constantly being devoured by the world and the unknown power in his body. Impossible! It's impossible for you to injure my divine body! Qi Tianhe rolled on the ground. His broken leg was like a lightning hammer descending from the sky, smashing towards Yu Yang. Quick! Yu Yang collected Qi Tianhe's severed hands. With a shake of his left hand, an extremely fast semi-divine tool ring appeared on it. The moment he dodged the attack, Yu Yang smeared his god's blood on the prison emperor divine seal. The metal beast that had transformed into the sky-piercing war blade looked at it. He couldn't care less about fighting. He immediately changed back to his original body. Before the prison emperor divine seal could absorb the god's blood, he used his little tongue to lick the god's blood. At least half of the god's blood was swallowed into his stomach. Yu Yang was so angry that he threw this little gluttonous ghost into the blood pool. He then received Qi Tianhe's kick head-on. He focused all his attention and willpower on the prison emperor divine seal, following behind the god's blood. If he couldn't subdue the prison emperor divine seal this time and obtain its approval, then no matter how powerful this treasure was, it would be destroyed. This was because after this, no matter if it was killing Qi Tianhe or the snake-hair demon man, or even clearing the trial grounds Demon Valley, it would be the time when he needed this treasure to show its might the most. He would have to wait until Yu Yang became a divine elder. At that time, the divine equipment would only be the icing on the cake. It would be dispensable. It wouldn't be as urgent as now, or the light was like an arrow. Hundreds of millions of light rays shot out from the prison emperor divine seal. Yu Yang's body was almost transparent under the light. Other than those runes, Yu Yang's skin seemed to be penetrated by the light rays. The battle with the prison emperor divine seal had reached its final stage. Although a powerful enemy was in front of him, in order to succeed, Yu Yang had no choice but to take the risk. Qi Tianhe's face was distorted at this moment. His body bounced back into the air, and with his broken arms, he sent the storm goddess general and little one Li flying. Then, he spun in the air and heavily attacked Yu Yang's head. If it was any other time, Yu Yang would definitely not suffer such a loss. However, his mind was completely immersed in the prison emperor divine seal. He was at the critical moment of his battle with the heavens, so he couldn't pull himself out. Yu Yang's body was like a nail that was forcefully nailed into the ground by Qi Tianhe. Qi Tianhe didn't let him off easily. With another whip kick, he sent Yu Yang flying from the ground. Having lost both his arms and legs, although his battle power had been reduced, and he had even been greatly damaged by the god's blood sacrifice, he didn't care about it at all. He knew that if this brat didn't die today, then tomorrow would be the day of his death. When Qi Tianhe successfully contracted the divine seal and fully displayed the power of the divine equipment, the heavily injured Qi Tianhe wouldn't be his opponent. You want to contract the divine equipment? Dream on. Qi Tianhe turned his elbow in the void and heavily hit the back of Yu Yang's neck, who was still holding the prison emperor divine seal with both hands. Yu Yang, who was unable to resist, violently spurted blood from his mouth, drenching the prison emperor divine seal. Go to hell! A divine sword pierced through space, almost surpassing time. It arrived in an instant and heavily slashed Qi Tianhe's head. It was Princess Sisai. She had rushed back. Qi Tianhe was furious. Although he was injured by the divine sword, it wasn't enough to stop him from moving. The instant Princess Sisai flew over and held the prison Emperor divine sword, he had already arrived in front of Princess Sisai. His broken arm, which had lost its right hand, heavily smashed down. Princess Sisai used her sword to parry the attack. Her hands were trembling so much that blood flowed continuously from her perlicue. Qi Tianhe, who was in a state of rage and disregarding everything, was still unstoppable even though his strength had been weakened. He quickly turned his body and swept his elbow at Princess Sisai's arm. A muffled cracking sound came from her arm. It was almost broken. If it wasn't for the divine sword's protection, Princess Sisai wouldn't have been able to resist Qi Tianhe's all-out attack. The cross slash flashed a bloody light on Qi Tianhe's back. Little Wenli's attack had succeeded. Qi Tianhe didn't have the time to turn around and counterattack or dodge. He was already sent flying by Little Wenli's tail. He was sent flying 100 meters away, far away from where Yu Yang and Princess Sisai were. The storm goddess general leaped high into the air. The moment Qi Tianhe landed on the ground, she clasped her fists together to form a hammer and added another attack. Qi Tianhe was smashed deep into the frozen ground. Half of his body was stuck in the ground, leaving only a pair of broken legs outside. The storm goddess general turned into a gigantic storm goddess. She grabbed the pair of broken legs and pulled Qi Tianhe out from the ground. Then, she smashed him randomly on the ground. After smashing him dozens of times, the entire ground was filled with deep pits and mottled cracks. Blood splattered all over the ground. However, Qi Tianhe didn't die. The moment the storm goddess general jumped high into the air, he smashed her head with a hammer. The storm goddess's body became sluggish, and Qi Tianhe instantly escaped. Under Little Wenli's slash, he drilled into the ground and came out from the faraway ground. He crashed into Yu Yang, who was still using his spirit to fight with the prison Emperor Divine Seal. Princess Sisai wielded her sword and guarded beside Yu Yang. She slashed down with her sword, but this couldn't stop Qi Tianhe's attack. Qi Tianhe ran towards Yu Yang amidst his bloodthirst. He even swept the prison Emperor Divine Seal with his broken arms, preparing to send it flying and cause Yu Yang, whose mind was in chaos, to vomit blood and fall to the ground. Don't even think about it. Princess Sisai didn't even have time to retract her divine sword. She immediately hugged Yu Yang and tried to dodge to the side. While she was hugging Yu Yang, Qi Tianhe rammed into her shoulder, injuring her internal organs. Her entire body flew out like a kite with a broken string, and she spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. Half of the blood splattered on the prison Emperor Divine Seal. After she vomited a mouthful of blood, the prison Emperor Divine Seal that had the upper hand suddenly dimmed. Then, it crazily released millions and millions of golden rays of light. Not only Yu Yang and Princess Sisai, even Little Wenli and the Storm Goddess General, even the entire sky and earth were dyed gold by this ray of light. "I'll fight it out with you." Qi Tianhe felt the change in his enemy in despair. Not only did he not heavily injure his enemy, he had also somehow helped him successfully contract the Divine Seal. Other than fighting it out with his life, there was no other way. Qi Tianhe clenched his teeth and once again crashed into Yu Yang with all his might. This time, he used all of his strength. The Storm Goddess General couldn't catch up in time, and Little Wenli was directly sent flying by the airflow he brought with him. Princess Sisai, who was hugging Yu Yang, was almost in despair. She didn't have the strength to escape anymore. She could only clench her teeth and turn Yu Yang around, forcefully using her back to block the enemy's attack. Princess Sisai didn't have time to think too much. She only hoped that she could use herself to protect her lover's life. Everything else wasn't important anymore. Boom! An earth-shattering sound shook the entire world. The ice mountain in the distance also collapsed. It was as if the sky and earth were going to collapse. It was a scene of doomsday. The shock wave tore apart space and swept away all kinds of chaotic energy. The scarlet blood in the blood pool and all kinds of scattered energy formed an extremely strange blood-red energy whirlpool. The only thing that could stand on the frozen ground was Princess Sisai's prison Emperor Divine Sword. Only divine weapons could maintain their own consciousness, after an unknown period of time. Only then did Qianqian slowly open her eyes in fear. Then, she shockingly discovered that she didn't die. She didn't even suffer any more injuries. Other than her arms and shoulders, her back didn't feel any injuries at all. It was still perfectly fine. What happened? When she regained her consciousness, she discovered that Yu Yang, who was in her embrace, had unknowingly laid on her shoulder. Void stretched out his hand, one hand pressing on her shoulder, the other holding the prison Emperor Divine Seal. Under the prison Emperor Divine Seal was Qi Tianhe, whose skull had caved in. It turned out that Qi Tianhe's all-out attack was stopped by Yu Yang's Divine Seal. Once she understood, Princess Sisai's entire body softened and fell to the ground. She didn't have the strength to stand anymore. Qi Tianhe's 5 orifices were overflowing with blood. His face was extremely terrifying. Drops of blood converged to form a blood stream, dripping onto the ground. Ah! Qi Tianhe's broken arm suddenly swung crazily, sending Yu Yang flying backwards. At this moment, Qi Tianhe no longer had any thoughts of risking his life. He only wanted to escape. He already understood one thing. With his injuries to this extent, even if he didn't have the Divine Seal, Storm and the little Lamia Loli, he wouldn't be able to fight against this brat. He must escape now. If he didn't escape, he would die here. Just as Qi Tianhe turned around to escape at the top of the sky, there was a flash of light. The wheel of destruction that Yu Yang had shot out had returned. Its spinning momentum was the same as before, destroying everything in its path. Qi Tianhe escaped 100 meters away before his body split into 2 halves, falling onto the frozen ground. Even so, the 2.5 Qi Tianhe still wanted to struggle and crawl. He still wanted to combine the 2 halves of his body into one to escape. However, the situation was already irreversible. With the prison Emperor Divine Seal in one hand and the Shuanghua sword in the other, Yu Yang flew down with the momentum of a monarch. This battle had been a bitter one. Qi Tianhe dead. Chapter 9:18. Seeing that Qi Tianhe was completely killed, Yu Yang relaxed and fainted on the ground. Little Wenli quickly took over his work and temporarily put Qi Tianhe's corpse into her storage ring. Xiaonu carried Yu Yang and hurriedly brought him back to the grimoire world to heal his injuries. Princess Qianqian was crying and laughing at the same time. There was still a lingering fear in her heart. She was afraid that Qi Tianhe wouldn't stop even after his death, and that he would relapse. She cautiously observed her surroundings, and only after she sensed that the battle had ended and everything was safe did her body softly fall down. The storm goddess hurriedly went forward to support Princess Sisai's arm. She quietly waited for little Wenli. After sealing the red blood pool with the purification light and extreme cold ice, Xiao Wenli summoned her grimoire and summoned the stone element Medusa, storm mermaid, thunder naga and ice serpent demon, letting them take over her work. She floated over and guided Princess Sisai and the storm goddess back to Yu Yang's grimoire world. The grimoire world was already in a mess. Many places were piled up with icebergs the size of small hills. There were also some places that were burning with the scarlet divine fire that had not been purified in time. There were also countless unknown divine powers that went against Yu Yang's will in the grimoire world, creating large and small energy whirlpools. Outside the room, Shui Wuxia's body was floating in the sky, continuously fusing with that unknown divine persona. The Book of Truth was also blossoming with thousands of rays of light. From the original semi-god equipment, it was gradually evolving into a divine equipment. Yu Yang laid on the bed. Although his will was no longer contending against the prison Emperor Divine Seal, His previous contract had almost exhausted all of his mental energy. Thus, the current him had fallen asleep due to exhaustion. Such a stubborn fellow. You have to bear everything by yourself. Other than sleeping, you're still a little better. You're really annoying normally. Furthermore, you're always like that, making people worry. When will you finally calm my heart down? Princess Sisai threw herself on Yu Yang's body. With a gentleness that Yu Yang would never have seen when he was awake, with her fingers that had just dried after being stained with blood, she caressed his face gently. Then she bent down and kissed him passionately. Little Wen Li and the Storm Goddess smiled at each other. They all knew what kind of woman this tigress was. She was strong and competitive, so it was normal for her to fight with Yu Yang. She had always been waving her little fists at him. It was rare for her to be as gentle as today. Actually, perhaps this was her true side. She had to wait until Yu Yang fell asleep and there was no one to argue with her. Only then would she return to her true self. Although it was not exactly the same, the real her was similar to the gentle Yu Yu. Princess Sisai's little secret was probably something that Yu Yang would never have thought of. What did Fourth Mother say? She asked you to take good care of me, but what happened in the end? Wuxia and I took care of you instead. You big bad guy. Princess Sisai hugged Yu Yang tightly. She muttered to herself. She smiled faintly. Occasionally, a teardrop of love would fall. The teardrop was warm and hot, dripping onto Yu Yang's sleeping face. She didn't know when this man had barged into her heart, but he refused to come out. Yes, he was such a barbaric little hooligan. What a hateful guy. Princess Sisai relaxed her mind and unknowingly fell asleep. She lay in his arms. Even though she was asleep, there was still a trace of moisture on her eyelashes. A sweet smile appeared at the corner of her lips. Her hand was placed in his big hand, but she clenched it into a small fist, as if she was going to hit someone. Perhaps, in her dream, she met the big bad guy that made her angry and annoyed, and she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After Little Wen Li and the Storm Goddess saw this, they smiled at each other. They were also exhausted. They sat beside Yu Yang, snuggling up to each other. They thought about the previous battle and couldn't help but smile. Today's battle. Speaking of attacks, skills, killing intent, and so on. Qi Tianhe couldn't be compared to the Empress, who had been on the battlefield for a long time. It must be known that when they killed the Empress, Ji Zun and Yu Yang used all their strength. Even the Qilin girl Bing Yin was summoned to help. Yu Yang even used the uncontrollable power of the Golden Giant's law to deal a heavy blow. Only then did he barely defeat the Empress. If it wasn't for the Phoenix Sisters and the Heavenly Sword Goddess' absolute protection, the victorious Yu Yang and Ji Zun would probably have died under the Heaven Empress star explosion. Now, Yu Yang had defeated Qi Tianhe with just his own strength. This didn't rule out the possibility that Qi Tianhe had just escaped from the seal and even destroyed his leg. It also didn't rule out the possibility that Yu Yang had broken through again and again after the battle with the Empress. He even passed through the rain, wind, sand, desire, and the 5 beast valleys in the trial grounds. He also cultivated with the girls in the World Tree and resonated with the will of the many seniors in the World Tree. He explored the divine realm that couldn't be seen before. Finally, one couldn't rule out the possibility that Yu Yang won because he fused with the immemorial runes and contracted with the prison Emperor Divine Seal. However, even if all the factors were added together, let's make a comparison. The Empress who invaded the Tong Tian Tower was far stronger than the current Qi Tianhe. It must be known that Qi Tianhe possessed the divine fire, divine body, and divine blood that the Empress yearned for even in her dreams. Just this one advantage was enough to make a warrior invincible. If the Empress had obtained the same divine fire and divine blood as Qi Tianhe and obtained an indestructible divine body, she definitely wouldn't have been defeated by Yu Yang. The Empress could beat Yu Yang to a pulp just by relying on the power that she had cultivated. If it wasn't for Ji Zun, Yu Yang wouldn't have been her match no matter what. In terms of overall strength, Qi Tianhe was undoubtedly much stronger than the Empress. However, in terms of battle power and battlefield performance, he wasn't at the same level as the Empress. According to Yu Yang's words, Qi Tianhe was just a nouveau riche who had obtained a large amount of divine blood. One day later, when Yu Yang opened his eyes, he discovered that Princess Sisai was sleeping beside him. However, her sleeping posture was very ugly. She used her arms to strangle his neck and pouted her pink lips slightly, as if she was going to shout, "Little thief, surrender to this princess at any time." Her slender jade-like legs were haphazardly placed on the shoulder of Xiaonu, who was lying on the side of the bed. Her other leg was directly placed on Yu Yang's lower abdomen. Furthermore, it went between his legs and forced itself under his knees. It was as if she was afraid that she would fall under the bed even when she was sleeping. No wonder in his dream, there was a beauty who would use her jade-like legs to tease him from time to time. It turned out that it was Tigress who had a terrible sleeping posture. "Don't go." It was unknown what Princess Sisai was dreaming about, but she hugged Yu Yang tightly and didn't want to let go. "It's so heavy. Lift your leg." Yu Yang felt that it was fine for him to be pressed down by her leg, but it was too hard for Xiaonu to carry one of her legs while she was asleep. He quickly reached out and moved her leg away from Xiaonu's fragrant shoulder under Princess Sisai's tight embrace. Ayaya, why did Xiaonu fall asleep? Master, wake up later. Wait for Xiaonu to go to the kitchen to cook something delicious before you wake up. All right, accompany the princess and rest for a while. Xiaonu will be fast, I promise I will be fast. Xiaonu opened her eyes and realized that Yu Yang was awake. She cheered happily, but immediately covered her little mouth obediently, for fear of waking up Princess Sisai. She pressed Yu Yang back onto the bed and carefully covered him with a blanket. Then, she happily jogged to the kitchen to prepare food for her master and hot water to wash up. Little Wenli and the Storm Goddess, who were startled outside the door, popped their heads in to take a look. Little Wenli came in, hugged Yu Yang, kissed him, and went out again. However, the Storm Goddess did not. She only nodded. She did not act as intimately as Little Wenli. Perhaps she did not dare to be too close. After all, she did not spend too much time with Yu Yang after she gained wisdom. Taking advantage of everyone's absence, Yu Yang naturally displayed the wolf hand. However, Princess Sisai did not wake up. Other than the perfect feeling, he did not feel much desire to conquer her. Yu Yang untied her armor and kissed the blossoming red plum on the pile of snow. Then, he gently covered her with a blanket. This tigress belonged to him forever. Even if he wanted to eat her up, there was no hurry. He must conquer her heart and body together. Completely conquering her would be the highest achievement. Now, let her have a good sleep. She had been running around and was scared. She was really tired. Outside the door, Xiaonu ran back quickly like a happy bird. She had already prepared everything. First, she served Yu Yang a big meal. Then, she prepared hot water for him shyly. "Master, let Xiaonu serve you in the bath." Xiaonu studied very seriously at Sister Sky Law's place previously. "These rune patterns still can't disappear?" Yu Yang looked at the immemorial rune patterns on his body, and shook his head. "Maybe it will take some time, at least a month." Xiaonu sat behind Yu Yang. She used the move that the Impatiens used before. Her unparalleled breasts rubbed against his back gently in the bubbles. She moved closer to his ear and asked, "Did Xiaonu do it right? Sister Sky Law or Sister Aquamarine, who did it better?" It doesn't matter if it's better or not. As long as the intention is there, it's worth praising." Yu Yang returned his hand and massaged Xiaonu gently. His bad hand moved. Out of control. Xiaonu, who was trying hard to learn how to please her master, was easily kneaded into a soft dough figure. After a while, a certain guy from another world couldn't help but start a fight. He hugged the weak little slave girl and prepared to find a place to have a fierce gunfight. A certain cute little slave girl, however, clung to the hot pool and broke free from his embrace. She leaned over and raised her but to make a respectful gesture. She even sighed to her master with a little regret. Xiaonu hasn't done a complete set yet. Next time, Xiaonu won't be so useless. I will definitely give master the greatest happiness. Ah, master, you can't kiss there. Oh, Xiaonu can't take it anymore. The fierce battle was endless like rain. After an unknown period of time, the two of them finally stopped fighting with satisfaction. Yu Yang waited for Xiaonu to fall asleep. He felt energetic and refreshed. He simply sealed Qi Tianhe's corpse in the demon-subduing tower. Then, he ran outside and collected a large number of ice cubes into the grimoire world, preparing to transfer them into the black hole space next time. After finishing everything, he sneaked back to sleep with Princess Sisai. He didn't look like the wolf who had secretly eaten her before. Instead, he looked like an obedient child. When Princess Sisai woke up, she gave him a punch. He was dumbfounded. It can't be? Tigress, I'm so obedient. Why do I have to be beaten when I sleep with you? Yu Yang desperately cried out for injustice. You still have the nerve? While I was asleep, you actually undid my clothes. What bad things have you done? Tell me the truth. What? Don't tell me you still want to deny it? Princess Sisai found that her bra was split open, her snowy peaks were half exposed, and the red plums and red fruits were naughtily sticking out. It would be strange if this brat didn't steal a kiss. You still want to cry out for injustice after beating him? You're simply courting death. Yu Yang had forgotten that he had also committed this mistake. He had only erased some traces of him and Xiao Nu's intense lovemaking. He had forgotten that he had unbuttoned Hunyo's bra and forgot to button it up for her. Now that she had caught him, he really had nothing to say. Prisoner, do you have any last wishes before you die? Princess Sisai glared at the dejected pervert with her tiger-like eyes. Yes. Yu Yang suddenly pounced on Princess Sisai and reached his wolf claws in. I only kissed you a few times at that time. I haven't touched enough yet. Wait until I've touched enough before you receive your punishment. Ah, you bit me, fine, I'll bite you too. Hey, that's not fair. You bit me so hard, I'll bite you gently. You can also use force. If you have the ability, bite off this piece of meat. Anyway, it's not as big as your Xuanyo, just bite it off. I can't bear to. Chapter 9:19. Other than spending a few hours to return to the 6th floor of the Thunder Fortress and asking the fat toad Giada to pass the news that he and Princess Sisai were training in the 10th floor, Yu Yang never left this damaged unit world again. During the day, Yu Yang used the power of the small code to guide the black hole to seal the space. He absorbed a large amount of icicles and helped Queen Vivian Li to speed up the completion of her ice world. At night, Yu Yang returned to the grimoire world tiredly and enjoyed Xiaonu's gentle massage. If Princess Sisai was in a good mood, she would come and take a bath with him. However, he was not allowed to touch her, otherwise she would bite him. Beautiful days passed by. Another 10 days passed, but Xue Wuxia still did not wake up. Yu Yang estimated that this Xuanyo would need at least half a year to completely fuse with the unknown godhead. And this was under the situation where he transferred his innate qi to her every day. That unknown godhead was too strong. Until now, Yu Yang still could not understand why a warrior with such a strong godhead would sacrifice himself to seal Qi Tianhe. Xuanyo is already not bad. Other than getting a godhead for free, the Book of Truth can be upgraded to a divine equipment. Only I got nothing. Princess Sisai could not help but be jealous. In this battle, Queen Vivian Li got the ice ability, Xue Wuxia got the godhead and Yu Yang got the immemorial runes. Only she got nothing. Tigress, there will be someone more suitable for you next time. Yu Yang quickly comforted her. Let me take a bite, Princess Qian requested. Huh. Yu Yang was curious. What was this? I'm angry. Of course, Princess Sisai's request couldn't be satisfied. This was because Yu Yang had used an even more barbaric method to temporarily conquer her. That was to use a suffocating kiss to seal her mouth. This way, she couldn't bite him anymore. Yu Yang felt a little guilty that Princess Sisai didn't get the treasure. Tigress had contributed a lot, and he couldn't let her suffer too much. Thus, he decided to find some time to help her refine the Prison Emperor Divine Sword. Anyway, the collapsed ice mountain was almost completely filled up. If it was before, Princess Sisai would never agree to Yu Yang's decision. Now, after the suffocating kiss, his body was still weak. He couldn't bring up the tiger's might. She could only give up and let Yu Yang approve it. Before helping Princess Sisai refine the Prison Emperor Divine Sword, there was a problem. That was, how could he not refine it into his own? One must know that the Divine Sword had recognized Yu Yang as its master. However, because of the interference of the Prison Emperor's will, the one who used it became Princess Sisai instead. If Yu Yang was able to remove all of the Prison Emperor's will, the new Prison Emperor Divine Sword would definitely recognize Yu Yang as its master. Not only would Princess Sisai not be able to fuse with it, she wouldn't even be able to use it like she was now. Yu Yang already had the more powerful Prison Emperor Divine Seal. When he completely refined the Prison Emperor's will imprint and turned the Divine Seal into his own, its power would definitely be stronger than the Divine Sword. Thus, Yu Yang still hoped that Princess Sisai could continue to use the Divine Sword from the bottom of his heart. The heroic Princess Sisai was actually very cute when she wore her armor and held her sword. It was just that Yu Yang, who was obsessed with uniforms, had never said it. He even fantasized that one day, when she wore her sword and armor, he would push her down. That kind of conquest was the true meaning of life. What are you thinking about? You're drooling. Princess Sisai used her fist to hit Yu Yang, who was in a daze. She hated his perverted look the most. This knock wasn't able to make Yu Yang into a gentleman, but instead, it gave him some inspiration from his fantasies. Actually, it wasn't something that he could think of now. He had thought of this idea a long time ago. However, he wasn't strong enough at that time, and the ability he could grasp was also very different from now. Most importantly, he didn't have enough materials. Even if he had the heart, he wouldn't be able to complete it. Thus, Yu Yang had left that idea behind for a long time. Today, when Princess Sisai hit him like that, Yu Yang recalled it and formed a new idea based on that idea. I've thought of it. However, before I help you refine the Prison Emperor Divine Sword, I have to do an experiment first to confirm it and accumulate some experience. Wait for me. Once he confirmed it, he immediately grabbed her little hand in joy and kissed it forcefully. He kissed Princess Sisai until her fingers trembled. He couldn't care less about wearing his clothes as he jumped out of the water naked. He sprinted all the way to his laboratory. When Princess Sisai saw it, her blushing face became hot. She pretended to be angry and scolded him. "Idiot, look at you, what are you doing?" However, she felt that it was funny in her heart. This fellow, sometimes he was really like a big child. He would do whatever he thought of, disregarding everything. Seriously. She didn't know if it was good to say that he was completely immersed in his work, or that he was extremely stupid. However, it showed that he was still very serious when he did things. She was actually very happy to see Yu Yang busy. She felt that he was the most charming at this moment. Others might think that Yu Yang's smile was the most charming, but she didn't think so. She only thought that it was a pervert trying to do something bad. Crescent Moon, you finally have a day where you can be reborn. I really didn't expect that. I thought you were going to be kept in the warehouse as a souvenir. Yu Yang summoned his Crescent Moon and sighed. Because he wasn't strong enough, when Yu Yang forged the Crescent Moon, he could only make it platinum ranked. He couldn't even make it holy ranked. In the end, this sharp blade that was useful in the beginning had almost no chance to be used in the later stages. Especially the evolution of the Tao Tai blade and the birth of the two divine weapons, the Star Scorpion, completely squeezed the Crescent Moon. Forget about the golden beast, forget about the Tao Tai blade and the star scorpion, just the holy ranked god-killing dagger and the quasi-five-colored divine light's black light were enough to make the crescent moon moldy in his storage ring. If he didn't pretend to be weak and confuse Qi Tianhe, Yu Yang wouldn't have thought of using the crescent moon. In this battle, Yu Yang had obtained a lot of God's blood. He tried his best to let the prison Emperor Divine Seal absorb most of it, but there were still about 10 drops left. Yu Yang decided to upgrade his crescent moon as well. Although it couldn't become a divine weapon like the Tao Tai blade, it could still become a killing weapon. At the very least, it should be a holy ranked weapon, right? The most important weapon spirit was no longer a problem. When he used the black hole space to swallow the ice mountain, Yu Yang discovered that there were still a few traces of the unknown Supreme Divine Being's consciousness left in the ice mountain's core. It was probably broken and couldn't be restored. Maybe the remnant consciousness of the Supreme Divine Being had unintentionally drifted into the ice core before she disappeared. Yu Yang couldn't read the memories of that predecessor, and he didn't know anything about her when she was alive. He only knew that she was a female from the godhead she left behind. Maybe it was a little disrespectful to use such a powerful female senior as his weapon spirit. But this might be the only way to continue to remember her. Otherwise, when the ice core dissipated, the few remaining bits of soul sense would vanish into thin air and be completely annihilated. I don't know how to address you, Senior. Since it's like this, please possess my crescent moon and fight alongside me in the future. The crescent moon has an ice attribute, so you shouldn't hate it. Please fuse with it and help me kill all my enemies in the future. In order to protect the unknown senior's remnant consciousness, Yu Yang personally cut his finger and used his own blood to draw his understanding of the new immemorial runes on the blade of the crescent moon. Then, he used the ice core that was as big as a small mountain to refine it. The god's blood wrapped around the unknown goddess soul and slowly poured it into the crescent moon. Then, he used nirvana flame to refine it. After the refinement, the crescent moon would usher in a new transformation. What would it become? Yu Yang himself couldn't imagine it at the moment. This was because he had given the final choice of changing his form to the natural choice of the unknown goddess remnant's spiritual consciousness to show his respect for the predecessors. A day passed. As the refinement reached its peak, Yu Yang bit the tip of his tongue and sprayed his blood and chaotic energy onto the blade. Princess Sisai and Xiaonu were so nervous that they didn't dare to breathe. Princess Qian gripped her sword hilt tightly, while Xiaonu covered her mouth cutely, afraid that her teeth would tremble from nervousness. She was afraid that the sound of her teeth chattering would affect Yu Yang's final refinement. Thousands of rays of light bloomed like flowers. The colorful light was like a rainbow, spreading in waves. At the same time, an invisible cold intent filled the entire grimoire world. Ding! Along with a deafening cry, the first crescent moon, which contained the most precious dream ice crystal gold, ice core, God's blood, the unknown goddess's consciousness, chaos origin force and Yu Yang's blood, was finally refined by Yu Yang's innate sword qi and nirvana flame. The first crescent moon was finally born anew. It broke through its original foundation and surpassed its original quality. It had evolved successfully. It floated in the air in Yu Yang's mind. Compared to the original half-moon-shaped blade, it was now longer and sharper, making it look like a perfect work of art. The dream ice crystal gold and the ice core fused together seamlessly, turning into the blade. At the core, there was a spherical chaotic energy. The chaotic energy was the fusion of God's blood and Yu Yang's blood. After Yu Yang's blood swallowed God's blood, it formed a brand new blood, which contained the unknown goddess soul. Of course, the three of them fused together perfectly. It turned out that the ancient runic circle permanent solidification and the heaven runic circle frost and sharpness had undergone a unique and wonderful mutation and evolution under the rebirth of the immemorial runic circle that Yu Yang had infused with his blood. The new immemorial blood rune circle rebirth amplified and mutated the permanent, turning it into an existence that surpassed ordinary ancient rune circles, eternal. Even the original frost and sharpness. They had evolved into ice river and sky splitting, which were close to the power of the ancient runes. Their power had increased to a completely different level. The newly reborn crescent moon slowly landed on Yu Yang's hand. Its appearance wasn't too abnormal, as its original form had become very perfect after going through Yu Yang's design. The unknown goddess soul only extended it a little, making it look more slender and elegant. On the outside of Yu Yang's blood rune, there was an additional layer of fine patterns. Perhaps this was the symbol of her when she was alive. However, Yu Yang didn't know what these fine patterns belonged to, nor did he know what they represented. It looked more like a weapon than a work of art. In terms of quality, it had already surpassed Yu Yang's original expectations. Right now, it had already become a semi-god equipment. From the original platinum ranked, it had directly skipped the saint ranked and directly leaped to the semi-god equipment. If the unknown goddess had more soul, or if she could bring along the divinity, even if it was just a remnant divinity, it could directly advance to the level of a semi-god equipment. It was a pity that the unknown goddess left behind too little soul, and the divinity was also fused with Shui Wuxia. Therefore, the crescent moon could only reach the level of a semi-god equipment. In the future, I will still call you crescent moon. In the future, please follow me to slay demons and gods. To be able to reach the level of a semi-god equipment had already far exceeded Yu Yang's expectations. He originally thought that it would at most reach the saint rank. He didn't even dare to think about transcending the semi-god equipment. He didn't expect it to reach the level of a semi-god equipment. Unusually satisfied and extremely excited, Yu Yang raised the crescent moon and couldn't help but say some bold words. Ding! As if responding to Yu Yang, the crescent moon's brilliance was like a wheel, like a blooming flower. It then let out a deafening sound that shook the depths of people's hearts. It didn't subside for a long time, causing the hearts of Princess Sisai and Xiaonu to tremble. At this moment, Princess Sisai rushed in and gave Yu Yang a punch. Scoundrel, I didn't expect you to really succeed. Yu Yang took the opportunity to take advantage of Tigress and nibbled. Without waiting for her to raise her fist, he turned around and hugged Xiaonu, pretending that this was a reaction of overexcitement and not a premeditated sneak attack. Princess Sisai rolled her eyes. Please, do you think my 6 records inherent skill is for nothing? But she didn't expose him and left him some face. With this best experience, Yu Yang now had the confidence to help Princess Sisai refine the sword. However, Princess Sisai waved her hand and said, I'm not in a hurry. While you are in a good state, why don't you refine the quality of the Eye Destroyer dagger and the Pisces ribbon as well? Especially the Pisces ribbon. If it can be used to its full potential, then under certain circumstances, we can control the entire battle. The Pisces ribbon? Yu Yang felt that it made sense. If the Pisces ribbon could be better, this thing would be as terrifying as the war chain in Heroes of Might and Magic. Chapter 920. It was not difficult to create the Pisces ribbon, but it lacked the most important material. The golden fleece that he obtained from the 12 zodiac temples had already been fused into the star Scorpio glove. Yu Yang hoped to find a treasure that was similar to the golden fleece, or even better, to create and upgrade the Pisces ribbon. If he wanted to do it, he would do it to the best of his abilities. On the other hand, the Eye Destroyer dagger, which was originally a silver-ranked dagger, had the best opportunity. Yu Yang first imprinted the ancient rune Truth on it, then supplemented it with the heaven rune Circle Break and Void Ride. He then used the Thunder Crystal Gold, Red Flame Crystal Gold, and the ancient Dragon Blood and Dragon Tooth that he extorted from the 2-headed Black Dragon in the Beast Valley to upgrade the Eye Destroyer dagger to Platinum rank. In an instant it had surpassed the Crescent Moon. It was a pity that the Eye Destroyer dagger could not evolve to Saint rank even though it had surpassed Platinum ranked. This was similar to how a Heaven-ranked warrior could not reach the innate Elder Realm, no matter how hard he tried. The Eye Destroyer dagger had become extremely beautiful. It was hung on Yu Yang's waist. It was enough for him to use when he was outside and not in a big battle. If he took out the Crescent Moon and the Tao Tai blade right from the start, he would either scare his enemies away or provoke them into a greedy and crazy plot to steal them. Platinum ranked, even in the Heaven realm, was considered a good treasure. It was more than enough to deal with small situations. How is the capacity of the black hole space reacting? The ice mountain is about to be sucked dry. On this day, after Princess Qian finished assisting Yu Yang to absorb the ice mountain, she realized that the gigantic ice mountain had already been swallowed up by the black hole space. If Empress Fei Wenli was still unable to leave, then she would have to find another place to absorb more pure ice energy. Even if there were a few more ice mountains, it would not be enough. Yu Yang shook his head and smiled bitterly. What kind of existence was the senior who sealed Queen Vivian Li? Don't be discouraged. Not to mention the Heaven realm, even the Tong Tian Tower has hundreds of similar ice and snow worlds. We have mastered this method, so we don't have to worry about not having enough energy. Princess Sisai rarely comforted him. Actually, if there was no one else around and it was just her and Yu Yang, Tigress would be very gentle in their sweet world. Usually, it was Xue Wuxia who did not give her the chance to appear beside Yu Yang all the time. That was why Xue Wuxia would deliberately resist her. Now that Xuan You was in a deep slumber, she naturally returned to her original self. After another half a day, the ice mountain was completely swallowed up. Even the area within a radius of 1,000 miles was sucked dry by Yu Yang's uncontrollable swallowing method. It would not do if he continued to absorb. Firstly, the efficiency would become extremely low. Secondly, this unit world had already caused the devouring to become unstable. There was a possibility of the space collapsing at any time. Thirdly, Yu Yang could not stay for a long time. He still had many things to do. For example, one thing that he needed to do recently was to go to the Heaven realm to keep his appointment at the Tianhua region's White River City. He had already made an appointment with the snake-haired devil. He had not gone for so long. The snake-haired devil was probably waiting until mushrooms grew out of his hair. Even Princess Sisai felt that this period of time was enough for the two of them. As expected, at night, Princess Sisai began to tidy up. She no longer practiced her swordsmanship. Instead, she warmly prepared a bath for Yu Yang and made the bed early. She was like a well-behaved wife who had just married into her family. After a night's rest, Princess Sisai broke free from his embrace. She put on her white tiger silver armor and restored her signature face of a violent female swordsman. Yu Yang still wanted to laze around in bed, but she grabbed his ear with one hand. "Don't play dead. I let you touch and kiss me yesterday. What's there to be unhappy about? Get up immediately. We have a lot of things to do. You still dare to touch me? You're asking for death." Shoulder throw. Coming out of the unit world, they left the 10th floor of Tong Tian Tower. They went to the 6th floor of the Thunder Fortress to take a look. After assigning some tasks, they returned to the 1st floor of the Soaring Dragon Continent. Jun Wuyu, Old Cunning Fox and Elder Yu Hai were nowhere to be seen. On the other hand, Feng Kuang, Eagle-Eyed Guy and the others were training the Dragon Knights and the new members of the Dragon Blood Guards. Yu Yang, as the #1 person in the founding team, naturally stood out to encourage them. Then, he quickly slipped away amidst the fanatical cheers. The pressure from the onlookers was too great. After getting rid of the fanatical fans, Yu Yang caught Fatty Hai, Yi Kong and the others. "Your training is not bad. However, your potential has already been set by me. That was your standard at that time. However, you guys are lucky. Not only did I get the ancient dragon's blood, I also got the Scarlet Heaven blood pool that was close to God's blood. This was a killing move that a guy who was close to God sacrificed his god's blood. I changed it a little. Yu Yang decided to change the potential of Fatty Hai and the other's blood before going to the heaven realm. Previously, it was the ancient slaughterer king's blood that had set Fatty Hai and the other's death. The strongest they could get was only heaven rank. It was still okay for them to walk around in Tong Tian Tower. If they were to go to the heaven realm, they would not even be able to match up to some of the powerful city masters. However, Yu Yang felt that people would always improve. With the improvement of their knowledge and realm, their abilities would naturally improve too. Things that were impossible in the past were not impossible now. It all depended on whether they had the guts to fight for it. It was impossible to use the god's blood. Fatty Hai and the others could not withstand the power of the god's blood for the time being. If they were to forcefully inject it, their bodies would explode. Therefore, Yu Yang decided to completely destroy the original foundation of Fatty Hai and the others and change it with the ancient dragon's blood. If it was only the ancient dragon's blood that was obtained from the Beast Valley, the potential would not be too high. However, after Yu Yang killed Qi Tianhe, he also obtained the Scarlet Heaven Blood River that was created from the god's blood and sealed it into a blood pool. Yikong suppressed his excitement and did not say a word. Fatty Hai rubbed his hands and looked like he was afraid of death. His fat trembled. This must be very dangerous, right? Yu Yang denied. No, it's not dangerous at all. I can guarantee that my body will definitely not explode. When Fatty Hai heard this, he immediately flattered. As expected of the Yu clan's third young master, who is second only to me, the boss. Alright, since you have good intentions as a boss, how can I reject your kind intentions? I will reluctantly accept it. Who hit me? F***ck, monkey, are you itching for a beating? This young master will fight it out with you. When Yu Yang condensed a blood pool in midair and kicked Fatty Hai into it, Fatty Hai screamed like a pig being slaughtered. He was shocked to find that his skin was melting. Didn't you say that my body won't explode? Yu Yang nodded with certainty. Of course not. I can guarantee that you won't even have time to explode. You will melt into a pool of blood. I don't want to die. I'm still a pitiful virgin. If I don't lose my virginity, I won't be able to die in peace. After Fatty Hai heard this, he simply cried into a mess. Drink this. Yu Yang handed him a bottle of dragon's blood. Goo goo goo. What is this? Fatty Hai hurriedly poured it into his stomach and asked suspiciously, Why is there a ball of fire burning in my stomach? AI, not good. I feel like I'm a volcano that's about to explode. Third young master, are you sure you didn't give me the wrong thing to eat? Drink this too. If you don't die, it means that you've succeeded. Yu Yang handed Fatty Hai another bottle of purplish-blue liquid. What if I die after drinking it? Fatty Hai's fat hands trembled, as if he was having a stroke. Then it means that you've failed. Yu Yang replied seriously. I won't drink it. Fatty Hai decided not to be Yu Yang's guinea pig. It was too dangerous. It turned out that this brat was not confident at all. Shameful. Looks like my tutoring is not good enough. The wind-breath seabird that had already evolved into a human was furious. She grabbed the fat on Fatty Hai's cheek and poured the liquid into his mouth. When Fatty Hai choked and coughed, she beat him up again, scaring Princess Sisai, who was watching and learning tutoring skills. After a long time, Princess Sisai finally dared to ask softly, Are you sure you won't cripple him like this? I think I heard a lot of bones breaking just now. This fatty is very resistant to beatings. It's fine. If the tutoring isn't strict enough, what would people think of him? They would definitely say that our high family has no rules. The wind-breath seabird threw away the lump of fat that she couldn't tell what it was and clapped her hands as if nothing had happened. Your family's tutoring is really strict. Princess Sisai was so scared that she stuck out her tongue. Although she was angry sometimes, she still couldn't beat Yu Yang up like this. She really couldn't bear to. Princess Sisai strongly suspected that the reason why Fatty High's vitality was so strong was because he was trained by the wind-breath seabird beating him up every day. Yi Kong and the Li brothers drank the ancient dragon blood and the bottle of mysterious purplish-blue liquid and jumped into the blood pool at the same time. They might not believe that they would succeed, but they would never doubt that Yu Yang's method would be ineffective. In fact, if they knew that the purplish-blue liquid they drank contained the juice of the fire god's soul-refining grass, an existence similar to God's blood, they would be so scared that they would cancel this blood exchange plan. Because it was too precious, even Yu Yang himself couldn't bear to use the fire god's soul-refining grass. But now, for them, he plucked a leaf and refined the juice to increase their potential. If the old cunning fox and the others knew about this, it would be strange if they didn't beat them up with their crutches. In the old cunning fox's eyes, other than Yu Yang, the most worthy person to invest in was Yu Bing, who was still growing rapidly and was about to contract the ancient forest ancient rune. This little girl was the real hope. The old cunning fox felt that it would be good if he could give some of the leftovers to Fatty High and Yi Kong. Fatty High and Yi Kong who were present couldn't see it, but the wind-breath seabird who was about to become a holy beast could see the value of the bottle of purplish-blue soul-refining liquid. That was why she beat Fatty High up in anger. She felt that his wishy-washy actions had let down Yu Yang's hidden good intentions. A few hours later, Fatty High, Yi Kong and the Li brothers who had fainted from the pain had once again been reborn. However, because their previous foundation had been destroyed, their strength had decreased to a certain extent. They had to cultivate again. Yu Yang didn't bring them to Conqueror City for the time being. Instead, he let them stay in Tong Tian Tower. In terms of their foundations, they could ask their seniors, especially Elder Nangong, Grandma Wu Ting, and the other sages. The better their foundations were, the higher their future growth would be. Yu Yang and Princess Sisai returned to Tianluo Palace from Xia Imperial Palace to see Fourth Mother. They reported to her about the battle with Qi Tianhe. Fourth Mother blamed Yu Yang a little for risking his life to fuse the immemorial rune alone. However, she didn't tell Yu Yang in detail because it was her secret. She only told Yu Yang not to do this kind of thing casually in the future. She hinted that no matter if it was a divine equipment, rune or divine grimoire, he must not touch it without knowing the truth. Yu Yang wanted to ask why, but Fourth Mother didn't answer. She carried Shuang Er back to her room to rest. Princess Sisai secretly kicked him, telling him not to force Fourth Mother. There must be a reason why Fourth Mother didn't tell him. He hadn't brought his sister to train for a long time. He originally wanted to bring Yu Bing to Heaven Realm, but this hard-working girl and Anan had gone to the Heaven Stairway to train again. Yu Yang could only find Yu Yu in the laboratory. "No, I'm not going. You and Qian should go together." Yu Yu rejected, giving the opportunity to Princess Sisai. "Let's go together, I'll call Sister Yi too." Princess Sisai's 6 records inherent skill also had a strange premonition that she didn't know if it was right or wrong. She felt that there were 2 people that couldn't be missed in this trip to Heaven Realm, and that was Drunken Cat and Yu Yu. Furthermore, Yu Yu was the most crucial person. If she wasn't there, who knows what the result would be. Hence, Princess Sisai gave up the chance to be alone with the 2 of them and forcefully brought Yu Yu into Yu Yang's grimoire world. "Why don't you help Qian fuse with the Prison Emperor Divine Sword?" After Drunken Cat and Yu Yang broke through the last hurdle, they became natural and unrestrained. They came without hesitation. Taking the chance when Princess Sisai was persuading Yu Yu, she pulled Yu Yang to one side. "You brat, you haven't taken down Tigress yet? This isn't like you. Cough, you know that I'm actually a good boy." When Yu Yang dared to say this, Drunken Cat felt embarrassed for him. Chapter 921. Tianhua Region. From Bahuang Region to Tianhua Region, it would take more than half a day to use the teleportation formation. However, from Tianhua Region to Baihe City, there was no corresponding teleportation formation. It was said that because of the state of war, more than a dozen districts, nearly 1,000 continents and tens of thousands of countries in Tianhua region were all fighting. What surprised Yu Yang the most was that this chaos had been going on for nearly 3,000 years and had yet to subside. Countless warriors died in battle, but the war did not stop. In reality, it was impossible to stop, unless more than half of the powers in Tianhua region were wiped out. The more people died, the greater the hatred. The more races and powers joined the war, the more intense the conflict of interests and the more complicated the relationship became. In Tianhua region, there were no righteous countries or armies, no righteous warriors. Everyone was a sacrifice in the meat grinder of war. At the same time, they were also the executioners who participated in the meat grinder of war. Countless mercenaries, or the heaven realm warriors who were invited by the various powers to help, died here. If their corpses were piled up, it would probably form a mountain that was thousands of meters tall and hundreds of kilometers long. But for the sake of immediate benefits, or to train their skills on the battlefield, every day, countless warriors would swarm into this meat grinder of Tianhua region. Welcome, rich and brave merchants. In the entire heaven realm, there were no more welcomed merchants than those in Tianhua region. This was because the merchants who dared to come to Tianhua region were the bravest adventurers in the world. Although the 3 region emperors of Tianhua region were fighting each other to the death, in order to continue the war, they unanimously announced a decree. No one was allowed to rob or kill merchants without reason. Those who disobeyed would be punished and beheaded. The goods, lives and freedom of the merchants would receive the greatest protection in Tianhua region. No one was allowed to confiscate or detain the goods and freedom of the merchants without reason. With the various goods brought by the merchants, the civilians of Tianhua region who were caught in the chaos of war could continue to live. The army needed supplies even more. And the 3 rulers who also had the ability to fight for the position of region emperor could also continue to fight for the position of the first ruler of Tianhua region. In the heaven realm, if a powerful region emperor were to be born, it would be a great thing. If 2 equally powerful region emperors were to be born, it would be a bad thing. If 3 powerful region emperors were to be born at the same time, it would be a hopeless nightmare. Before he came to the Tianhua domain, Yu Yang had already learned about the situation in the Tianhua domain. Like many others, he disguised himself as a wealthy merchant and officially stepped into this chaotic place. With the cover of a merchant, Shi Feng could go anywhere he wanted. White River City was a piece of cake for him. Of course, since he was a merchant, goods were indispensable. This was especially true for someone like Yu Yang, who was coming to the Tianhua domain for the first time. Without a large amount of goods as a guide, the border guards would definitely not allow such a suspicious person to enter. It wasn't impossible to sneak in, but Yu Yang didn't have to hide like a rat. Wouldn't it be better to enter openly and earn some extra money with the goods? The Tianhua domain had a very high-quality electric ore, which was one of the items that Yu Yang needed to make a beast bracelet. Yu Yang, Princess Sisai, Yu Yu, and Drunken Cat were in front in a luxurious airship. In addition to this luxurious airship that did not carry any cargo, there was a fleet of ships behind it. There were a total of 50 wide ships of food and 10 long and narrow ships of fine wine. The leader of the merchant group was Bao Gu from the southern heaven realm's Nightless City. In terms of guards, the Wild Bull group had surrendered to the Nightless City, and this time, they had volunteered to send out guards, Fei Huang and Hua Ban. Also, there was the trio of surrendered Zhong Guan, Bai Ma and He Tu, who had already gained the trust of Yu Yang. As for Yong Hui and Yu Su, who had lost a lot of their strength, Yu Yang didn't have 100% trust in them, so he decided to leave them alone first. Although the captain of the guards, Zhong Guan, was only at the 3rd level of heaven stage, in reality, this strength was already very good in a place like the Tianhua domain. Yu Yang had such a group of guards above the heaven stage. It could be said to be a luxurious fleet. Even if they weren't merchants, no one would dare to rob them. 5 heaven stage rankers as guards? With this kind of strength, even if he wasn't ranked in the top 10 among the merchant groups in the entire Tianhua domain, no one would dare to doubt that he was in the top 20. 50 ships of food? And 10 ships of wine? Too much. No, we can't take it. Not to mention our Chamber of Commerce. Even if all the merchants in Gold Sun City were to join up, they wouldn't be able to take it. You may not know what price the food here is sold for. I dare say that the number of people who starve to death in the Tianhua domain is 10 times more than the number of people killed in the war. Respected Master Baogu, quickly sit down. No, of course we don't dare to hide anything. We have always maintained our utmost respect for a super-large merchant group like you. However, we need to gather manpower. Please give us some time. I dare say that not only the merchants in the entire Gold Sun City, but also the soldiers and civilians who are starving to the point that their eyes are white will sing praises of your generosity. You have come at the right time. I dare say that if you didn't come in another month, at least 1/5 of the people here would starve to death, only more. Master Baogu, please sit down. I will immediately inform the city lord. Don't worry, even without your 5 heaven stage guards, no one would dare to touch a single finger of your goods. When the fleet arrived at a place called Gold Sun City, the largest grain merchant in the area, Appa, had the most sensitive sense of smell and immediately came to welcome them. When this guy heard that all 50 ships were filled with grain, he immediately jumped up in excitement and almost called Baogu his father on the spot. We have plenty of food. These 50 boats are just a small test. We are considering the business prospects of the Tianhua region and whether such an investment will pay off. Baogu put on an air of, I am the master. The current him was no longer the little merchant who was bullied miserably and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. After meeting Yu Yang, his fate had taken a 180-degree turn. Of course, he wasn't the only one with the same fate as Baogu. There was also the fat toad Jiada. Even though Baogu was the leader of the caravan this time, because of his seniority, Baogu still had to call the fat toad president to show his respect. It had to be known that before Yu Yang entered the Heaven Realm, he had already handed the entire Titan Chamber of Commerce over to Jiada to manage. As for the fat toad, he did not disappoint Yu Yang's expectations. He managed the Titan Chamber of Commerce well, which made Yu Yang very satisfied. This outstanding performance also made the fat toad Jiada the first toad in the entire Tong Tian Tower, and even the entire Heaven Realm to be lucky enough to fuse with dragon blood. If it wasn't for the fat toad Jiada's physique being too weak and unable to withstand the transformation of his bloodline, Yu Yang would have even bestowed him the supreme honor of the ancient dragon blood. As he was not very familiar with the matters of the Heaven Realm, the fat toad was willing to share his power and give the opportunity to lead the team to Baogu. He was responsible for cooperating and organizing the business group together. In this way, the fat toad gained Yu Yang's recognition and Baogu's respect. Master Baogu, I dare say that this place is definitely worth investing in. With food, you can have everything here, including human lives. There is nothing here that cannot be exchanged for food. The grain merchant Appa patted his chest and gave Baogu a guarantee. Since that's the case, I'll be straightforward. Baogu directly stated his conditions. We need the electric flower ore. The electric flower ore is a military-controlled item. Appa's face turned bitter when he heard this. If not, then let's go. Baogu did not waste any time. Wait, Master Baogu, please don't be angry. Please listen to our explanation. It's not that there is no electric flower ore, but it is usually purchased by the king, smelted, refined, and made into weapons. The region emperor strictly forbids the trading of electric flower ore, especially the outflow. Public trading will result in death. Appa was full of bitterness. We don't need to trade openly, smart Appa. Have you ever thought of this? As long as you hand over the weapons you seized from the battlefield to us to deal with, we can donate food and wine to you. Think about it, Mr. Appa. Sometimes it's very simple to obtain a person's friendship, especially if it's delivered to your doorstep. However, when friendship is far away, you can't get it back even if you want to regret it. Bao Gu's eloquence had been trained in Nightless City. Most importantly, he had food in his hand. Even if Appa had 100 mouths, he would not be able to outtalk him. It's too infuriating. Is this how you treat your guests? Giada, the fat toad, added fuel to the fire. Wait, my two masters, please don't be angry. Your proposal is very good, but we need a decision-maker. I think the city lord will agree to this good proposal. I'll go look for him immediately. Please give us this opportunity. The grain merchant had no choice but to submit. His granary could practically starve rats to death. He had just encountered a fleet of ships filled with food. Even if he had to behead them, he would not let them slip away in front of him. As for why the electric flower ore could not be traded? That's right. If we don't trade, we can just give it to our friends for free. Furthermore, for such an awesome merchant group, even if the higher-ups knew about it, they would turn a blind eye and pretend not to have seen it. When Bao Gu and Giada teamed up to threaten the grain merchant Appa, Yu Yang was studying the route of travel. The merchant group was just a stepping stone. His real destination was White River City. The problem was that White River City was almost the center of the Tianhua region. It was not close, and it was also a place of long battles. Why did the snake-haired devil, the young master of the 4 great families, ask to meet him there? Could it be that there was some secret in White River City? Was there a divine weapon? Or was there some treasure? Or was there some relic there that made the snake-haired devil so anxious that he had just escaped from the Earth Demon Temple and was in a hurry to search for treasures? Have you noticed that in White River City, no, in this large area, it's all rivers, lakes, or swamps? Princess Sisai suddenly pointed out an important point. If the city here is drawn like this, it seems to form a strange pattern. Yu also revealed her findings in the past few days. I'm very ashamed, I didn't discover anything. When Drunken Cat saw Yu Yang looking at her, she quickly waved her hand. Let me think about it. Yu Yang felt that Princess Sisai and Yu had both seen some important points, but they were not complete. What kind of secret was hidden in White River City? Was it really as simple as an ordinary heavenly realm city? Bao Gu and Giada, who had just boarded the luxurious airship to report, saw Yu Yang pondering over the map. They quickly turned around and left quietly. Compared to what he wanted to do, the Chamber of Commerce was not worth mentioning. It was better not to disturb him. He could deal with the city lord and the grain merchant Appa himself. Chapter 922. The city lord of Gold Sun City was called Feng Ji. He was a Cat Clan elite with quasi-heaven rank strength. With this strength, other than in Tianhua region, he would probably be killed by a bandit leader in a second. But among the dozens of cities nearby, his strength could be said to be in the top 5. In Tianhua region, the closer the city lords and king were to the battle zone, the stronger they were. Most of the city lords who did not directly participate in the battle were below heaven rank. Some were even earth rank level 6. Feng Ji was not originally the city lord of Gold Sun City. He was an adventurer who came to Tianhua region to train. Because the previous city lord of Gold Sun City died in battle, the personal guard captain and butler who took over died in battle, there was no one who could take over the position of city lord. So he took over Gold Sun City. Adventurers like him who took over the position of city lord were not rare in Tianhua region. Although the requirements for the city lords in the periphery of Tianhua region were not high, there were still a few empty city lord positions. No one was willing to take over the mess. For example, there was Sheepfoot City not too far away from Gold Sun City. Because of the lack of minerals, the barren land, and the natural and man-made disasters, the citizens were all in a state of hunger after being heavily taxed. So no one was willing to take over the place. The king could only send a small team of garrison troops to manage the place and barely maintain law and order. If it was a large business group outside, sending a representative to take over the position of city lord would be more popular in Tianhua region. Strength was not important, but they had to complete the battle preparation tasks assigned by the higher-ups. Other than that, the higher-ups did not interfere with the actions of the city lords. It could be said that places like Gold Sun City and Sheepfoot City, which were in the periphery and lacked special products, had long been forgotten by the higher-up. Where do you expect me to make so much food? I have no choice. Feng Ji was angrily shouting at his butler, Sha Tong. It's not that I don't want to care about those citizens, but I have no choice. The last seeds have been given to them to plant. How would I know that those seeds were sold by profiteers? I don't know agriculture, and I don't know breeding. I used to be a mercenary who could feed himself and his family. I didn't come here to take over the position. I didn't want to be a city lord, but this place is too chaotic. I just wanted to contribute to Ai Chow's hometown. You want me to conjure out grains and seeds? Do you think I'm a god? You know how much money I have in my treasury. The last of my funds have all been given to the profiteers to buy those damned seeds. Now the seeds have been fried by the profiteers and can't sprout. Can you blame me for that? You can do whatever you want, I've had enough. Lord, if there's no food, I dare say that half of the people in Gold Sun City will starve to death within a month. Steward Sha Tong had a bitter expression on his face. Of course, he knew the city lord's difficulties, but apart from reaching out to him, what else could he do? After all, Feng Ji was the governor and he was the most powerful person. I don't know what to do. Feng Ji roared. I've also been frugal. I've been starving for 3 whole months. In these 3 months, I haven't had a full meal. There's no way I can continue being such a cowardly city lord. You can choose another city lord. Whoever wants to do it can do it. I really don't have the ability to feed hundreds of thousands of people. This. Butler Sha Tong sighed. He knew how difficult it was for Feng Ji because he also didn't have the ability to feed hundreds of thousands of people. The shortage of food was not just a problem for Gold Sun City, but the entire Tianhua region. Other than some rich lands in the Tianhua region, the rest of the regions were poor. The war had caused too many laboring men to die on the battlefield. Most of the people left in the outer regions were the old, the weak, the women, and the children. Other than the necessary garrison personnel and the severely injured and disabled, any adult, regardless of gender, regardless of race, as long as they had a certain level of fighting ability, would be transferred to the military camp in the war zone for intensive training. Then, they would be sent to the battlefield to fight in the Domain Emperor's war that could end any time. The food supply was almost finished. Without seeds and crops, it meant that the next harvest would be 0. About a month later, all the grass, tree bark, and livestock would be finished. Finally, hundreds of thousands of starving people would enter the same tragedy as the disaster areas in Sheephoof City. Exchanging children for food. This wasn't the first time Sha Tong had seen such a tragic situation. Could it be that Gold Sun City would also become a land of death filled with bones and corpses? Sir, there's good news. The world's poorest grain merchant, Appa, rushed in with a flushed face and knocked Sha Tong, the starving and skinny butler, to the ground. Appa, a merchant is here? It's a miracle that there are merchants willing to come to such a poor region like ours. Sha Tong didn't have time to get up and directly grabbed Appa's leg and asked, "Where are the merchants?" Feng Ji was also very welcoming, but after asking this question, he revealed a bitter expression. "We have no money." They don't want money. Appa shook his head and waved his hands excitedly. There are merchants in this world who don't want money? Feng Ji didn't believe it. If merchants didn't want money, then all the pigs in the world would know how to climb trees. Yes, that's right. They don't want a single gold coin from us. No, they don't want magic crystals either. Honestly speaking, if we give them our low-grade magic crystals for free, they won't even want them. You can't imagine what kind of merchant group would come to our place. There are a total of 50 ships with provisions and 10 ships filled with fine wine. My God, if those goods could enter the battlefield, I dare say that even the kings would be badly beaten. I'm done talking. Yes, back to the trade. They don't want our money, they only want the various weapons that they retrieved from the battlefield. Appa was so happy that his words were a little incoherent. Have you lost your mind? We are in the periphery, not the battlefield. How could there be any weapons? Furthermore, those are prohibited goods. Those who trade with us will be beheaded. Sha Tong denied the possibility of such a trade. That's right, you're right. But what I want to say is, what is the purpose of them wanting weapons? They wouldn't be interested in ordinary weapons like the electric sparkle ore. We can use the electric sparkle ore to exchange for a large amount of rations. City Lord and Butler Shah, think about it. 50 ships, each of which is 100 meters long. As long as we take them down, it won't be a problem for the entire city to starve to death. Appa quickly explained. I say, Appa, lower your voice. The electric sparkle ore was forbidden by the domain emperor himself. Sha Tong felt that his heart was beating like a drum, but he couldn't deny that he was tempted. Was there anything more terrifying than starving to death in this world? No. Rather than being beheaded, it was better to fill one's stomach first and die a full death. When Appa saw that Sha Tong, a diehard member, was starting to relent, he quickly struck while the iron was hot. We are not trading, City Lord. We are just expressing our sincerity to our distinguished guests. As a proof of our friendship, we will give them a small gift, and they will generously repay us with the rations that we urgently need. Even if the higher-ups know about this, I believe they won't punish us severely. After all, there is a shortage of rations everywhere, and the king is also having a headache. Feng Ji felt that this idea wasn't bad. However, he was worried about how much rations could the little electric sparkle ore in the Golden Sun City be exchanged for? No matter what, he had to calm the other party down first. If the other party left with the ships, then everything would be over. The three of them decided to take the risk, and pulled a few other merchants who were equally poor to visit the leader of the merchant group. Anyway, this trade was a trade of beheading. If they lived, they would live together. If they died, they would die together. No one would be left behind. When he saw the 50 ships, even Feng Ji, the lord of the Golden Sun City, couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Damn it, if only it wasn't the city lord. If he was still a thief in the past, he might as well rob a fat sheep. A business without any capital. It was better than risking his life to make a trade. When he saw that the other party had 5 heaven rankers as guards, he was so scared that his body went limp. If he really robbed them, he wouldn't even be able to keep his skin. Without a few heaven rankers among the 50 ships, even with the protection of the Domain Emperor's token, they wouldn't be able to enter the central battleground. However, where did this Titan business group come from? 5 heaven rankers as guards. Such a large sum of money was not inferior to the top 10 merchant groups. You are the city lord? Let's not talk too much. Our request is very simple. As long as you hand over the electric flower ores, other than food, we can also provide you with seeds. Bao Gu expressed his position. He only wanted the electric flower ores and nothing else. Seeds. When Feng Ji heard this, his heart beat faster. In the Tianhua region, seeds were definitely the root of life. They could do without anything but seeds. The purity of our electric flower ores isn't high. Moreover, the king only collects them once every 3 months. Our stock is insufficient. Sha Tong, the butler, lowered his head. He had to lower his head. because he could already tell that the other party was a super luxurious merchant group. They probably wouldn't care about the small stock of the Golden Sun City. As long as they drove the ships into the battleground, the kings would fight to trade the electric flower ores. Although it was forbidden by the domain emperor, there were exceptions to everything, right? Such a luxurious and wealthy super merchant group would usually be able to get the domain emperor's special approval. We really don't care about the little stock we have. We need a large amount of electric flower ores, a very large amount. When Fatty Jiada said this, Feng Ji, Appa and Sha Tong almost fell into despair. They were pleading when Fatty Jiada waved his hand and proposed a plan. How about this? We invest in mining here. You will be responsible for providing labor and we will provide food. We will allow you to exchange your wages for food. At the same time, we can also provide you with some seeds. In return, you will send as many people as possible to mine the electric flower ores. As for the purity, you don't have to worry about that. No problem, we don't lack manpower here. Appa was afraid that Feng Ji and Sha Tong would hesitate and agreed on his own. I might as well give the Golden Sun City to you. I am an incompetent city lord. Moreover, any one of you is stronger than me. You can send someone to be the city lord of the Golden Sun City. You can do whatever you want. Feng Ji felt that he was really useless. As a dignified city lord, not only did he not have the gold-grade armor of the other party's guards, he even had to starve. He took off the city lord ring, the only token that represented his identity, and stuffed it into Jiada's hand. Then he held Bao Gu's hand. Captain, can I be a guard here? This guy's shocking actions made Bao Gu and Jiada dumbfounded. There was such a thing? Sha Tong and Appa also cried out like resentful women. City Lord, you can't abandon us. If you leave, what will happen to us in the future? Feng Ji waved his hand. Stop, stop, stop. I am no longer your city lord. To be honest, I have had enough of this damned city lord position. I don't have that ability, and I don't like to worry about the food and drink of hundreds of thousands of people. Ever since I became the city lord, I have not been happy for a day. Even when I was at my lowest, I was not as poor as I am now, and I have never been as hungry as I am now. If I have to starve to death as a city lord, why would I want to be a city lord? Why don't I be a guard, or a mercenary like before? At least, I can still eat my fill. Kid, you are not qualified to be a guard. Zhong Guan and the others laughed until their stomachs hurt. How many people wanted to be a city lord? But now, as an expert of a city lord, he was worried about starving to death in office. This was truly a huge joke. My strength is lacking, but I have good skills and talent. Although I can't grow food, I am good at scouting and tracking. Feng Ji quickly fought for it. The problem is, although I am the captain, there is still a master above me. Bao Gu laughed. Unless you can obtain the master's permission, it is useless no matter how strong you are. How many experts break their heads to become guards? There are even experts of heaven stage level 4, but they are not qualified. Here, in addition to ability, loyalty is also important. To be honest, I doubt your loyalty because you can leave a city just because you are hungry. You have a master above you? Feng Ji was dumbfounded. What was the background of this merchant group? The master of a heaven stage expert, was that the king? Or was it an even more powerful existence? Master said that if you can find a way to cross the still swamp, then you can be temporarily hired as a guard for a trial period of 3 months. Yu Yang was on the luxury yacht and sent a female dragon person from the heaven realm to pass the message. Although Feng Ji was unwilling to be a starving city lord, it seemed that there was a problem with his loyalty. But if one looked at things from two sides, one would find that this fellow from the Cat Clan was actually not bad. If it was another city lord, even in a poor city, would he starve? At least, it could prove that Feng Ji did not exploit the commoners to obtain wealth. He might not be qualified to be a city lord, but it should not be a problem for him to be a pathfinder and use his specialty. Moreover, it was indeed better to let people like Bao Gu and Jiada take over Gold Sun City than to let Feng Ji do everything. In the mountains near Gold Sun City, the reserves of electric flower ore were not bad, but it was difficult to mine. The problem here was that there was not enough manpower and technology to mine, which resulted in low production. If they had the technology to mine the thunder ore in the Thunder Fortress, with a large number of manpower, the electric flower ore might not be enough to become an elite weapon on the battlefield, but it would be enough for Yu Yang to refine a beast bracelet. Still swamp, that's a land of death. Feng Ji's face changed when he heard this. We don't want cowards. Fatty Jiada tried to goad him. Who said I'm a coward? You guys found the right person. If it was someone else, they really wouldn't be able to cross the still swamp. Even I, who escaped from the still swamp, only had a 30% chance of success. You guys don't know, that place is too scary. It's basically a land of death that can't be crossed. If you want to cross the still swamp, other than strength and experience, the most important thing is luck. Feng Ji bowed to the female dragon person who was still waiting for an accurate reply. His eyesight was not bad. He knew that this female dragon person's position was actually higher, at least higher than the few real guards who had the strength of Heaven Stage. Feng Ji's attitude was very respectful, and his words were also very sincere. If you want to cross the still swamp other than me, you need to find another person from another place. The two of us are indispensable. Chapter 923. After Feng Ji freed himself from the painful position of the Golden Sun City Lord and became a temporary guard, he quickly got into his role. He first made a sailing route and handed it to Bao Gu before presenting it to Yu Yang. Then, he quickly returned to the city lord's mansion and brought out his long-legged lizard that was also starving. Fortunately, this long-legged running lizard's loyalty was not bad. In addition, there were many times when Feng Ji would rather not have enough to eat himself and share a portion of his food with it. Otherwise, after starving for a few months, even the most good-tempered beast would run away. Don't tell me that you are planning to use this beast to lead the way? The fat toad Jiada looked at it and sweated profusely. He thought to himself, can you, a city master, be any poorer? Where's the flying war beast? Bao Gu also felt that Feng Ji's position as the city lord was wasted. Ah, there's no flying beast, but I dare say that as long as it's fed, it can run as fast as flying. Feng Ji's words made Zhongguan and the others laugh so hard that tears flowed down from their eyes. To be in such a state and still be a city lord, they were really unlucky. Finally, the speechless fat toad Jiada waved his hand and ordered his underlings to prepare food for Feng Ji and the long-legged running lizard. Because Feng Ji and the others' food was served a little slower, he couldn't care less about the many people watching from the side and started to eat the raw meat together with the long-legged lizard. Jiada and Bao Gu turned away, unwilling to look. Even the reincarnation of a hungry ghost wouldn't be like this. Looking at the bloody raw meat, Sha Tong, Appa, and the other Gold Sun merchants secretly swallowed their saliva. Fortunately, they were more conscious of their status and had better self-control. In addition, they didn't dare to be presumptuous in front of a noble person, so they could only try their best to endure. In the end, when the roast meat was finally placed on the table, and when Bao Gu opened his mouth to invite them, they immediately surrounded him impatiently. Everyone tore the meat with their hand. They didn't even have time to use any cutlery, nor did they need any condiments. They directly grabbed it tightly with their hands and stuffed it into their mouths with all their might. Although Sha Tong, Appa, and the others were wolfing down their food, no matter how ugly their table manners were, they were still better than Feng Ji, who was swallowing so quickly that his eyes were rolling back. If not for his quasi-heaven stage strength, Feng Ji would have choked to death on the spot. It wasn't like Fat Toad Jiada had never seen starving poor people before. In the past, before the third young master took over the mines in the Thunder Fortress, the number of slaves who starved to death every day was at least a few dozens. It wasn't strange at all. However, in the legendary Heaven Realm, in the Heaven Realm where rankers were as common as dogs, in the Heaven Realm where the rankers of Tong Tian Tower yearned for, there were actually people who were so hungry. It really made people speechless. Fatty Jiada dared to say that if the higher-ups in Tong Tian Tower knew the truth, they would probably refuse to come to Heaven Realm even if they were carried by 8 carriages. After a big meal, Feng Ji and the long-legged lizard's bellies bulged as if they were pregnant. It would be a miracle if he didn't die from overeating, not to mention the journey. "We'll give you a flying beast." Bao Gu did not want to wait for this fellow to catch his breath before continuing his journey. He knew how precious Yu Yang's time was. No need, no need. Feng Ji sucked on his toothpick, burped and waved his hand to refuse. It's not a problem to hurry now. As long as my fast legs are full, they can run faster than most flying beasts. Cut the crap and do as I say. Zhongguan, give him a flying dragon and set off immediately. The fat toad Jiada ordered without any hesitation. Although Yu Yang did not ask for it, Fat Toad Jiada would never allow anyone to waste his precious time. No matter how fast this beast ran, it could only run on the ground. The ground was rugged. How could it compare to flying in the sky? If they encountered mountains and hills, then the time needed to run on the ground would be countless times longer to reach their destination. There were flying beasts that didn't ride but used 4 legs. No, this lizard still ran with its hind legs, which meant it had 2 legs. How could 2 legs be faster than flying in the sky? Hearing this, Feng Ji's face suddenly turned awkward. Butler Sha Tong, who was familiar with him, gathered his courage and stood up to explain. City Lord Feng Ji, it's Feng Ji's guard. He has acrophobia. Unless his life is in danger and he needs to avoid flying, he doesn't dare to fly in the sky. When Bao Gu and Jiada heard this, they all fell to the ground. Good heavens, a warrior with the strength of a quasi-heaven's stage can't fly. It's fine if he can't fly, but he has acrophobia? Can this guy make people even more speechless? If you are not specially hired by the master, I will drag you to be buried alive. Zhongguan had never seen such a person in his life. If it was because of the special characteristics of the body, for example, fire people did not dare to go into the water, and water people did not dare to enter the hot and dry areas, it was still reasonable. A normal cat race did not dare to fly. What was this? Fortunately, he was not a flying race like Eagle Man or Yen Man otherwise. This kid would have been thrown away by his family as trash the moment he was born. After Yu Yang heard this, he could not help but laugh. The Heaven Realm was really full of strange things. A quasi-heaven stage could not fly. It was equivalent to the innate rankers of Tong Tian Tower could not fly. It was the same as having acrophobia. Of course, in Tong Tian Tower, because a warrior's strength was not innate, but cultivated, any innate would definitely fly. Not to mention acrophobia, even if the innate rankers of Tong Tian Tower were inferior in flying skills and flying speed, they would be despised. Moreover, after innate level 6, there was not much difference between living in the air and living on the ground. Zhongguan and the others stay and cooperate with Bao Gu and Jiada to take care of Jinyang City. The electric flower ore is the main point. Yu Yang made a decision at the last minute. He no longer sat on the luxurious airship. Instead, he followed Feng Ji and walked around the Tianhua region. Perhaps this way, he would be able to obtain more information and understand the snake-haired demonic man's purpose of meeting him here. Drunken Cat and Yu Yu entered Yu Yang's grimoire world. The Heaven Realm Dragon Woman and the luxury airship temporarily waited in Jinyang City, while the fat toad Jiada and the others were busy. Yu Yang and Princess Sisai, who were wearing the same platinum armor, appeared in front of Feng Ji and the others for the first time. Seeing the two of them dressed almost the same, Sha Tong, Appa and the others were stunned. Even Feng Ji, who had good eyesight, was a little uncertain. Please forgive my rudeness, which one is the Titan boss? The fat-toed Giada was furious on the spot. I really doubt if you are blind. The one beside Master Titan is the mistress, Princess Sisai. You can't even recognize the most heroic princess in the world. Do you really know how to scout? Even a blind person is better than you. Actually, it was not Feng Ji's fault for not being able to tell the gender. In Yu Yang's domain, no one could see through the truth. In addition, Princess Sisai and Yu Yang's armor were the same, a blurry image deceiving them. Unless one had solved the mystery at the gate of life and death, or had the strength of an innate elder, who would be able to see through it. What Giada and the others saw, under Yu Yang's control, was different from what Feng Ji and the others saw. In fact, what Feng Ji and Sha Tong and the others saw was completely different. Feng Ji felt a little ashamed when Giada showed off his strength. However, he felt that this Master Titan and Princess Sisai's strength was a little lacking. Previously, he thought that they had the same strength as the king. Because the guards were all heaven-ranked level 3, they should at least be heaven-ranked level 4, right? Unexpectedly, they seemed to be weaker than him. If they wanted to use this kind of strength to safely pass through Still Wind Swamp, it was really an impossible task. Of course, this Master Titan and Princess Sisai might have hidden strength. When the two of them stood together, they gave off a very strange feeling. They seemed to be very strong, but also seemed to be very weak. It was a little hard to judge. Feng Ji decided to personally understand. Otherwise, it would be too late to regret it when they reached Still Wind Swamp. If he were to give up now, it would be better than dying in vain in Still Wind Swamp. Moreover, if nobles like Master Titan and Princess Sisai were to die because of him leading the way, not only him, even the commoners of Gold Sun City would be annihilated. Feng Ji thought for a while, gathered his courage, and bowed to Yu Yang and Princess Sisai. Since Master and Her Highness have given me the task of leading the way, then I have to be responsible for your safety. Before attempting to pass through Still Wind Swamp, I hope that Master and Her Highness can display impressive skills. Otherwise, if you get lost in Still Wind Swamp, no one will be able to save you. At that time, only death awaits. You want to test Master's skills. Zhongguan suddenly felt that this guy was a madman. If he wasn't a madman, why would he abandon the city lord and become a guard? If he wasn't a madman, why would he use the identity of a guard to test the Master's strength? Was this something he could do? You're courting death. He Tu and Bai Ma were also furious. As for Hua Ban and Fei Huang, they were ready to beat him up. How could he doubt the third young master's identity? Wouldn't it be fine to just be a spy? Why would he doubt the third young master's strength? If the third young master wasn't strong enough, would he leave behind all the guards to protect him and Her Highness? The fact that he made this decision showed that he had enough confidence, and this Feng Ji actually doubted this. What an incurable fool! Yu Yang waved his hand, letting Hua Ban and Fei Huang retreat. He made another gesture. Come, I'll let you punch me. Let's see if you can determine my strength. Feng Ji naturally knew that doing this was strenuous and unrewarding, but no matter how bad it was much better than dying in the Still Wind Swamp. He gritted his teeth and increased his strength. Of course, he didn't dare to use his full strength, but secretly reserved 30% of it, lest he hurt this Master Titan, who had an unknown status. After receiving another hint from Yu Yang, he threw a punch at Yu Yang. Halfway through the punch, suddenly, he changed his direction at the last minute and hit Princess Sisai. Princess Sisai originally didn't want to pay too much attention to him, but now she noticed the persistence of this Pathfinder thief. Sometimes persistence was not a good thing, but if the intention was good, it was definitely not a bad thing. She stretched out a finger and casually caught Feng Ji's punch with 70% of his strength. At first, Feng Ji, who thought that her strength was similar to his, was stunned on the spot, while Sha Tong and Appa's jaws dropped to the ground. She was able to block Feng Ji's sneak attack with just one finger. Just how powerful was this princess? But she clearly didn't look like she had the strength of heaven rank. What was going on? Feng Ji was stunned for 3 seconds before he reacted. He bowed to Princess Sisai and sincerely apologized. Your Highness, Feng Ji just wanted to test your strength and reaction speed. In the still wind swamp, there is danger at any time, so... Before he finished speaking, he jumped and threw a punch at Yu Yang. This time, he didn't hold back, but used all his strength to attack Yu Yang. In the still wind swamp, there were many powerful and unpredictable heaven-rank magical beasts. If he couldn't even handle this sneak attack, then it was better not to go to the still wind swamp. Yu Yang also stretched out a finger. His movement seemed to be slow. It was so slow that anyone could see it clearly, including Feng Ji, who launched a sneak attack. That very slow finger unbelievably bypassed Feng Ji's lightning-fast fist. It didn't block like Princess Sisai, but directly counterattacked. He lightly flicked his finger on Feng Ji's forehead. In the next second, Feng Ji flew out like a cannonball. He flew 10,000 meters away, broke dozens of trees, and crashed into the mountain with a rumble. Appa, Sha Tong, and the rest were so scared that their knees went weak and their bodies trembled. They wanted to immediately kneel in front of this powerhouse and beg for forgiveness, but they were afraid that doing so would make the other party unhappy. They panicked and didn't know how to react. After an unknown amount of time, Feng Ji crawled out from the deep mud pit like a dead dog. He spat at the soil in his mouth. Feng Ji bowed in admiration while suppressing his excitement and shouted, "I have offended you. However, this test makes me feel at ease. With the powerful strength of you and Her Highness, in addition to my scouting, I now have at least a 60% chance of passing through the still wind swamp. If I find another person, with his dog nose and my cat eyes working together, the success rate can even increase to 80%. Even if I fail, I think I can escape safely. After all, the strength of you and Her Highness is the most powerful guarantee. Master Titan, are you willing to hire another hunter from the Hound clan? I dare say that it doesn't cost much money. As long as he can eat meat bones every meal, it will be enough." Yu Yang nodded. "It doesn't matter if I spend some money, but we must pass through the still wind swamp." Feng Ji was overjoyed when he heard this. Regardless of the dirt all over his body, he jumped onto the back of the long-legged lizard and waved his hand. "Master and Her Highness, let's go!" "Wait a minute." Zhong Guan and the others suddenly surrounded him. "What do you want?" "Just now, Master personally agreed to let me take the test, and I didn't hurt Master." Feng Ji realized that something was wrong. These guards who let him steal the limelight, were they trying to avenge their personal grudges? What Master said cannot be doubted. Of course, we have no objection. However, you have joined the ranks of our guards, and as usual, we have to welcome the newcomer. Zhong Guan smiled and patted Feng Ji's shoulder, with a warm look of, "I am your boss. I will protect you in the future." Feng Ji's heart warmed up, and he quickly jumped down to greet them one by one. "I haven't greeted all of you just now, I am too impatient. What is the welcome ceremony? How about this, when the task is over, I will invite all of you to drink." "There is no hurry to drink. Now is the welcome time for the newcomer to join. The ceremony is very important. Our guards have such a fine tradition." Zhong Guan punched Feng Ji in the face, knocking him down. He Tu, Bai Ma, and the others also surrounded him and beat him up. They didn't stop until they were tired. Feng Ji wanted to cry, but no tears came out. What kind of welcome ceremony was this? Damn it, this was simply abuse of the newcomer. Zhong Guan reached out to him and pulled Feng Ji up. He patted his clothes and said earnestly, "Because you have a mission, you can't take up too much of Master's time." The following welcoming ceremony will be postponed for the time being. When you come back, we will definitely welcome you to join us grandly again. Don't cry, in fact, your welcome ceremony is already considered good. To think of us, young people, the tradition must be inherited and carried forward. That is a good tradition. Feng Ji now understood what was going on. It turned out that these guys had been beaten before they joined, so once a newcomer joined, they would be beaten up. Damn, this kind of tradition, of course, this beating could only be in vain. He wiped his tears and nodded solemnly to Zhongguan. Captain, don't worry, when a newcomer joins, I will definitely welcome him well, and let him understand what a good tradition is. At the end, Feng Ji gritted his teeth, wishing that a newcomer would join immediately, so that he could beat him up to vent the anger in his heart. It's good that you understand. Zhongguan's big fist hit Feng Ji's face, and when Feng Ji fell to the ground, he kicked him with his big foot. Welcoming a newcomer is the benefit of every old member, you must remember this. Don't beat him too long, let's beat him for another 10 minutes. Yu Yang had never opposed this tradition, in fact, he was the first to create this tradition. Sometimes, the more you hate, the angrier you get, the more motivation you have to work. The more you feel like this in your heart, the more hope you have. The more you wait, the more patience you will have. Although not all, many things in the world are like this. Chapter 924. The long-legged running lizard flew at high speed. Mountains, hills, cliffs, all of them were like flat ground. If one could ignore his fear of heights, Feng Ji could indeed be considered a pretty good pathfinder. He had extraordinary eyesight and could clearly see birds and beasts more than 10 kilometers away. He could also clearly see the flapping wings of a fly. The most important thing was that he had a strong instinct to predict danger. Once he realized something was wrong, he would quickly take a detour and change his route. Other than having an outstanding talent in scouting, he was also an expert in stealth. His mount, the unremarkable long-legged running lizard, also had the special ability to change its color and quickly blend into the environment. Although this guy can't compare to Smoke Flea, it's still good for pathfinding. However, his fear of heights is really too boring. To think that he's a quasi-heaven ranker. Princess Sisai was a little speechless towards Feng Ji. She and Yu Yang held hands and flew in the sky at a moderate speed. They were more than 1,000 meters apart and followed from afar. Sometimes, when she was happy, she would pull him to sit on the rocks of the mountain peak. Watching the clouds rise and fall in the sky, watching the wind and drizzle on the ground, she really enjoyed this world of two people. If she was tired, she was sick of it, then she would lie on Yu Yang's back and let him teleport while she comfortably took a nap. Maybe it's because of the psychological trauma when he was young. Yu Yang analyzed with a "I'm an expert in psychology, please don't worship me too much" attitude. What about you? Is it because of the psychological trauma when you were young that you became so lecherous? Princess Sisai suddenly asked. I'm born like this. Yu Yang felt like he was about to sweat. Is it worth shouting about it publicly just because you're born lecherous? Princess Sisai didn't expect this guy to admit it. Well, being lecherous is better than being a eunuch. At least, being lecherous can reflect on yourself. You can occasionally pretend to be Lu Shaohui and see if there are any beauties coming to your embrace. However, once you become a eunuch, there's no turning back. Haven't you heard of it? Once you enter the palace, you will be as deep as the sea. No matter how powerful the eunuchs are, they are at most eunuch. I think it's a mistake to discuss this with you. Princess Sisai rolled her eyes at him and deliberately shook her hand, trying to break free from Yu Yang's grasp. However, before Yu Yang had been transported to this world, he had read many posts about his senior's experience in picking up girls on the internet. One of the posts was, "When you hold a beauty's hand and the beauty tries to struggle free, you must never let go. If you let go, you will become an idiot." One had to know that beauties were strange creatures who said one thing but meant another. In other words, whatever they said, their hearts might be the exact opposite of what they just said. If a beauty told him to let go and let go, he wouldn't be a man. He would be a yes man. Who would be willing to fall in love with a yes man? Who would be willing to spend the rest of their lives with a yes man? Then let's not talk about this. Let's talk about something else. For example, last night there was a tigress who said she wanted to take a bath with me. Who would know that I soaked until a layer of my skin peeled off and disappeared? Now, I'll have to trouble a certain tigress who claims to be trustworthy to explain. Yu Yang asked with a smile, as if he wasn't angry at all. Do you want to hear the truth or a lie? Princess Sisai asked Yu Yang a multiple-choice question. A lie. Yu Yang chose a choice that normal people wouldn't choose. Sometimes, he didn't play his cards according to common sense, but he could get good result. Who in this world likes to hear lies? You're purposely trying to anger me, aren't you? Princess Sisai couldn't help but want to give him a punch. However, she thought that sleeping on his back was very comfortable. If she couldn't eat and sleep to her heart's content, she would throw away the coolie who served her. Forget it, she would forgive him this time. Moreover, she was the one who started this topic. It's not important what I want to hear. What's important is whether there will be compensation tonight. Yu Yang expressed that he was a magnanimous adult and always thought about the future. If there isn't a kitty sitting on your lap tonight, I'll think about it. Princess Sisai snorted. Actually, that was an accident. She was tired from training and wanted to soak in hot water to wash off her fatigue. Who knew that there would be a pitiful me soaking there, waiting for a certain heartless princess who would verbally agree but would never keep her promise. Yu Yang laughed. The jealous tigress was really cute. No matter what, she still sat on your lap. Princess Sisai felt that the process wasn't important, and the result was what she saw. You don't even mind Xiaonu, but why is it Kitty? You're the one who's getting jealous? Didn't you call her sister? Moreover, it wasn't like what you saw yesterday. She was too tired. I only helped her massage her shoulders and arms. I definitely didn't do that. Yu Yang felt a little strange. In the past, before he pushed down Drunken Cat, Princess Sisai and the others would always encourage him in the open and help him secretly. They wanted to make this happen. Why was she unhappy now? It doesn't matter if it's a shoulder massage. Even if you guys do something, it has nothing to do with me. However, you guys were whispering in each other's ears and plotting against a certain pitiful princess last night. Isn't this a little too much? Princess Sisai looked at Yu Yang like a judge looking at a thief, waiting to see how he would quibble. There was definitely no plotting. Yu Yang cried out his innocence loudly. I heard it with my own ears. Do you still dare to deny it? Princess Sisai expressed that the evidence was irrefutable, and the criminal had to confess. Ah, what did you hear? Yu Yang felt a little hot. He had forgotten that this tigress had those 6 records inherent skill. Damn it, she heard something she shouldn't have heard. For example, helping out at certain times, taking down a certain princess who was kept in the dark. Princess Sisai unhappily gave Yu Yang a cute eye roll. I really don't know what tricks you used to confuse people. Sister Yi, who was originally shy and protective of us, turned around and helped you plot against us the moment you ate her. It's all your fault, you bastard. Sister Yi, who was so good, has completely changed now. Haha, successfully transforming Kitty is an achievement that I'm proud of in my life. Tigress, she didn't have any bad intentions. She was just a little more noble and wanted to share the good stuff with you guys. Yu Yang laughed evilly. Let me let you be proud, let me let you be cocky. Princess Sisai couldn't hold it in any more and sent this brat flying with a punch. What was called taking advantage of others and still acting innocent. This brat was. After 3 days of rushing, Feng Ji became more and more obedient towards his 2 bosses, Yu Yang and Princess Sisai. No matter how fast he ran on the running lizard, No matter how far he ran, sometimes the two of them were already dozens of kilometers behind, but in the blink of an eye they could catch up. The long-legged running lizard hadn't recovered at first, but with enough food these few days, it had already recovered 90% of its speed. It was almost no different from flying. However, if the two bosses were willing, they could hold hands and fly leisurely in the sky. They wouldn't be a second faster or a second slower. That kind of control could make many heaven-ranked rankers smash their heads to death. The scariest thing was that sometimes when the Titan boss and mistress were in the mood, they would run to the ground to enjoy the scenery or have a picnic. Even if they were a few hundred kilometers away, they could still catch up with a teleportation. Having great strength and learning how to teleport was not considered abnormal. The problem was that this Tianhua region was filled with all kinds of abnormal energy due to the long years of chaotic battles. In addition, there were many strange spatial laws in many places. Not to mention teleportation, even flying might not be smooth. Moreover, to be able to accurately find a person a few hundred kilometers away, ignore the influence and restrictions of spatial energy, and teleport over in an instant. What kind of control did one need? Forget about the city lord, even the king. Feng Ji reckoned that no one could do this well. Could it be that the Titan boss who hired him was really a ranker whose strength surpassed the king's? If that was true, then why would a ranker like him come to the Tianhua region, which was already in a mess? Could this Titan master be a ranker invited by one of the 3 region emperors to help? Feng Ji guessed along the way. Curiosity could kill a cat, but he had no answer. Hiss hiss. The long-legged running lizard suddenly cried out. An enemy appeared? Feng Ji understood the abnormal reaction of his mount. An enemy must have appeared somewhere in front of him. The smell that came with the wind made it feel uneasy. There shouldn't be any heaven-ranked demon beasts nearby that could threaten his life. Then the enemy was not a demon beast, but a ranker? How could a powerful ranker appear here? Strictly speaking, this was still within the boundaries of Gold Sun City. This was the border intersection of Gold Sun City, Yangdi City, and Chisun City. Mercenaries would never come to such a desolate and poor place without a mission. Bandits would never come to such a place to plunder. Because if bandits came here, they might starve to death in such a godforsaken place. If it wasn't mercenaries or bandits, could it be the army? The problem was, this was the rear, not the chaotic region. Unless the commander of the army was retarded, it was impossible for him to send his soldiers to such a place. Feng Ji hurriedly stopped the running lizard and stopped to wait for Yu Yang and Princess Sisai. He was no longer the city lord, but a guard. He no longer needed to make decisions. This kind of headache, he just needed to report it to the higher-up. What's the matter? Why did you stop? Yu Yang was chatting with Princess Sisai along the way. When he realized that Feng Ji had stopped, he went up to ask. There seems to be an enemy in front. It smelled a threatening scent. I reckon that an enemy with the strength of heaven ranked has appeared. Feng Ji himself did not understand why an enemy with the strength of heaven ranked would appear here. He was puzzled. Now that you mention it, I can sense something strange. There are less than 1,000 people rushing towards us. The source of the malicious murderous aura is also coming from that direction. Is that the source of the malicious aura the strength of heaven ranked? It seems that there are only 1 or 2 of them, not enough to be feared. After hearing this, Princess Sisai used her 6 records inherent skill to sense it. She first looked into the distance, then wrinkled her nose, and finally shook her head, indicating that she could not see clearly. Your Highness, you can see the enemy? Feng Ji turned pale with fright. Even his cat eyes could not see the enemy, but this Princess Zhan's mistress could actually see them? Not with my eyes, but with my senses. Forget it, I don't want to explain. Princess Sisai waved her hand. She actually felt a little regretful. Although the 6 records inherent skill was very powerful, compared to the divine sense domain that Shui Wuxia had cultivated in the door of life and death, it was still a distance away. If Shui Wuxia, who had the Book of Truth, was here, she would probably be able to clearly see how many enemies there were and how strong they were. It was much better than her own 6 records inherent skill. Because the distance was too far, she was still unable to provide accurate information to Yu Yang. It seemed that if she wanted to surpass Xuan Yo and become his greatest help, she would have to work hard and train hard. Princess Sisai was lamenting about her own inadequacies. She was completely unaware that her performance had scared Feng Ji so much that he almost knelt on the ground. All along, Feng Ji was most proud of his pair of extraordinary cat eyes. This pair of eyes could see further and more accurately than anyone else. Even compared to the eagle eyes of the eaglemen, he was not the least bit inferior. He did not expect that his mistress actually had a pair of eyes that were 100 times more powerful than his. Before he could even see the shadow, she could already see the number of enemies. She could even see that there were only 2 heaven-ranked enemies. What kind of eyes were these? He really wanted to ask what race this mistress was from. Could she be from the legendary heavenly eye race that was famous for their divine eyes? That couldn't be right. This princess did not have a third eye at all. She did not look like someone from the heavenly eye race. A very weak aura, mixed with a very violent aura. It's very puzzling. Alright, let's not guess blindly. Let's go and take a look. Yu Yang could also sense some of it. However, before the supreme martial artist's consciousness was fully expanded, his heaven eye's divine vision could not see clearly like Princess Sisai's 6 records inherent skill. Moreover, the distance was a little far, so he was too lazy to see. It seems that there are also sounds of crying. The crying of a woman and a child. Princess Sisai and Yu Yang looked at each other. They increased their speed at the same time and flew forward quickly. I can't hear anything. I can hear the crying of a woman and a child from tens of kilometers away? What kind of hearing is this? Feng Ji was completely convinced now. It seemed that if he were to compare himself with the Titan Lord and Princess Her Highness, he was really a piece of trash. No wonder that Fat Toad felt that he did not even have the qualifications to be a pathfinder. Chapter 925. Hurry up, run, run. If you want to live, run as fast as you can. In the dense forest, nearly 1,000 starving people in rags were running barefoot. Everyone was fighting to be the first. Even the dozens of mercenaries in shoes, who were in charge of maintaining order, were also in a mess. The leader of the mercenary troop was covered in blood. He was carrying a giant axe on his back, constantly waving his hand to signal the exhausted starving people to run faster without stopping for even a second. Vaguely, in the thick forest behind them, there was a kind of giant red wolf with red eyes. As long as the mercenaries who were responsible for guarding the starving people didn't pay attention, they would jump out from their hiding places and attack as fast as lightning. Their giant mouths could easily grab the skinny prey and drag it into the forest to eat. There were more than 20 to 30 of them. Moreover, they were extremely cunning. They were born to know how to deal with the mercenaries. If the mercenaries who were responsible for guarding the starving people relaxed a little bit, they would be able to attack them. Bastard, get out of here! The mercenary captain was the only one who could fight against this kind of scarlet wolf alone. However, even his giant axe couldn't kill this scarlet wolf. He could only injure and force this extremely greedy and thick-skinned hungry wolf to retreat. A silver axe cut through the air, slashing down. The red wolf, who was talking about the starving people, got a wound on its neck. The skin on its neck was split open and blood splashed. It screamed, reluctantly dropped the prey in its mouth, flattened its tail, and quickly ran into the forest. The starving person on the ground was already dead. His head was broken and his head was flowing out. Although his hands and feet were still twitching, he couldn't be saved. The leader of the mercenary troop didn't need to look. He knew that this kind of red wolf was extremely brutal. Even if it had to drop the prey in its mouth, it would still bite the enemy to death first. Unless the warrior was more powerful than the red wolf, no one could survive the wolf's bite. He shook his head, turned around, and waved his arm. Run. Everybody run faster. We're almost out of the red wolf forest. Run as fast as you can. After he had taken a few steps, the wounded red wolf stuck its head out again. It slyly observed the situation around it and instantly dragged the starving person's corpse into the bushes. It didn't give up at all. It was just that its opponent was too powerful and it couldn't defeat it, so it retreated a little. While this red wolf was eating, more red wolves were roaming behind, looking for an opportunity to attack. Usually, there was a shortage of food in the forest. This time, there was a large number of prey passing by, so they naturally did not want to miss it. Thump, thump. A dozen vines hanging in the forest tripped over the starving people who were running for their lives in panic. At first, only a few people fell to the ground. However, the people behind him only cared about running and did not see clearly in front of them. Even if they could see clearly, they would not be able to stop. He tripped over the tree vines, tripped over his companions, and it immediately became a chain reaction. Except for a few people who still had a little bit of strength to cross over, the rest of the starving people staggered and fell to the ground, like a pile of dominoes that collapsed. By the time the mercenary captain discovered this and rushed over to deal with it, the ground was already littered with exhausted people. There were also some starving people who did not trip, but they were worried that they would fall into the wolf's mouth if they left the group. They did not dare to run anymore, and they stayed beside their companions with fear. Even the group of people who ran past the tree vines did not know what to do when they turned around and saw this situation. Should they continue to run, or should they go back? If they continued to run, the number of people they had would not be enough for the wolves to eat. If they went back to the group, they might be temporarily safe, but behind the wolves, there were even more terrifying enemies chasing after them. If those enemies caught up, it would definitely be more tragic than dying in the wolf's mouth. Now, what should they do? Continue to run forward or stop to take a breather? Idiots, why are you still not running? If the enemies catch up, we're finished. A few brave, starving people continued to run forward. They were all men, and although they were thin and weak, they were still men, and they were more decisive than women. In the group of 1,000 people, most of them were old, weak women and children. They could not make a decision at all, and could only look at the mercenary captain who was in charge of everyone's safety. They hoped that he could come up with a good idea. The few men running in front were knocked down by the red wolves that circled to the front, and they screamed in pain. This situation caused the entire team to be shocked into a mess. There were also wolves in front. What should they do? Run, don't worry about the wolves, we'll deal with them, you guys continue to run. The real enemies are looking for us, if they catch up, all of us will die. The mercenary captain ordered the 5 members to quickly catch up and protect the people in front. He anxiously shouted, indicating to the people not to stop, not to rest, they must use all their strength to run, otherwise they would not be able to survive. Save me, save me! An old man was knocked down by a wolf. He tightly grabbed onto a tree vine and shouted for help. The red wolf pulled with all its strength, but it could not pull the vine. It was angry and used its front claws to tear the old man's body in half. The old man was not dead yet. Half of his body fell to the ground, rolling around and letting out a miserable cry. It was a tragic scene. The mercenary captain closed his eyes. He had seen too many lives disappear like this. When they set out, there were nearly 10,000 people running for their lives. Now, there were less than 1,000 people left. He waved his hand forcefully and shouted, "Everyone, you can stick close together, but you have to keep moving forward. I won't wait for those who stay behind. If any of you can't walk anymore, I will definitely leave you behind. If you want to live, then run with all your might. The distance to Gold Sun City is not far. If we run there, we will have a chance of survival. You have already run for thousands of kilometers, just a little bit more. Do you want to give up here? If you have the strength, take the child. If you don't have the strength, clench your teeth and endure. After we pass through the red wolf forest, there are almost no ferocious beasts. If we reach a safe place, we will rest for a while, but not now. Hold him. Hua remember to take good care of your little brother, do you understand? An old woman suddenly passed the baby in her arms to a thin little girl beside her. Grandma! The little girl's entire body began to tremble, but her small black hands tightly hugged the baby who was barely breathing. You are already so big, you must be sensible, you must take care of your little brother. Grandma can't walk anymore, you must live well in the future. The old woman revealed a smile, leaned over to hug the little girl, and lightly kissed her forehead. My baby, you must live, the merciful God will look after you from the heavens. At any time, you must not give up hope, our family's hope is all on you, you must work hard to live, Hua The little girl's face was full of tears, she desperately nodded. She, who was sensible, knew what was going to happen next. She was not the only one who did this. There were dozens of old people and women who entrusted their babies or loved ones to others, and stayed behind to feed the wolves. Just like in the past when they risked their lives to pass through dangerous areas with ferocious beasts, some people had to be sacrificed to let the rest escape. Now there were only 20 to 30 red wolves, it was still considered a small number. Dozens of people were enough to fill their stomachs, at least they could temporarily stop chasing the fleeing people, and focus on enjoying the fresh blood and meat. Seeing a group of starving people stay, the mercenary leader did not refuse, in fact, he did not have a better way, this sacrifice was already the best way. He did not have powerful strength, he could not even kill a red wolf, he could not prevent this tragedy at all. Along the way, it was unknown how many people stood up like this, sacrificing for their loved ones, using their own lives in exchange for the survival of their loved ones. Because there was a lack of adult men, the first to stand up were the injured. Then there were the old people who had no loved ones. Later on, there was no one who could be sacrificed, but there were still people who stood up and sacrificed themselves. In the whole group, the ones with the highest survival rate were the babies and little girls, because they were the last hope of the whole group. If they all died, then there would be no meaning in escaping. Grandma is gone. The old woman took out a dagger, ran towards the red wolf in the distance, and used all her strength to pounce on the enemy. When the red wolf was about to slap her to the ground, she used the last of her strength to stab the red wolf's eyes. Then, with a smile, she straightened her limbs. On her chest and abdomen, there was a deep claw mark, all of her internal organs were destroyed. She had never thought of killing a red wolf, but she hoped that she could do her last bit of strength for her granddaughter and grandson to leave. Out of the dozens of starving people who sacrificed themselves, only a few managed to injure the red wolf. On the contrary, these people were quickly hunted down by the red wolf pack. They were torn into pieces. The group of escapees with tears in their eyes once again went on their way. In the middle of the crowd, the little girl's dirty face let the tears rush out a few white streaks, but she did not cry, she clenched her teeth, tightly hugged her little brother, wrapped in the crowd, staggered as she ran. She didn't know how long she would have to run like this, but her survival instinct made her surpass her limits again and again. While the red wolf is eating, we need to leave the red wolf forest as soon as possible, it will be safe in front, we need to go faster, faster, run. The mercenary leader was extremely anxious, the truly terrifying enemy was not the red wolf, but an existence that was 100 times more terrifying than the red wolf. If they were to let those enemies catch up, they would definitely be wiped out, they would not be like the red wolf pack, leaving behind 100 or so people to pass. So touching, I almost cried. A sharp voice, like an owl, came out from the forest. What a good life and death parting, I also admire this show, if only a few more people could die, it would be even more touching. Another loud voice, like a gong, sounded out. This voice was like thunder, exploding above everyone's head. Upon hearing this voice, the legs of the starving people, who were running for their lives, all went soft. It was even more exaggerated than a tree vine tripping. One by one they fell to the ground. Their bodies were trembling with fear. Their eyes were even more shocked than if they had seen a ghost. Not to mention the old, weak, women and children, even the calm mercenary leader's face was ashen. The dozens of mercenaries who had been protecting the starving people were dumbstruck. Some dropped their weapons, some even knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. There were a few mercenaries who abandoned the starving people and ran for their lives with all their might, trying to escape from this place. A few leaves flew over like darts and pierced through the necks of the escaping mercenaries with a whistling sound. When those mercenaries fell back to the ground, their heads were already separated from their bodies. Instant kill. They did not even have the strength to resist. Just a few leaves were enough to instantly kill these mercenaries with the strength of Earth rank level 5. This is too disappointing. I thought that there would be a few people who would rush over to defend themselves and make a great sacrifice. I didn't expect that there wouldn't be a single one. The man with the voice of an owl floated over like a bat. Seeing this person appear, those greedy red wolves were scared to the point of scattering. No longer caring about the flesh and blood on the ground, they all ran for their lives with their tails between their legs. Of course, their outcome was the same as the few escaping mercenaries. It was impossible to see the strange man make a move. It was as if there was a whirlwind around him, and dozens of leaves flew out, instantly killing the red wolves that the mercenary leader could not kill even with his full strength. The red wolves were all decapitated. Originally, they were predators, but now they had all become corpses. The mercenary leader was in despair. This man's strength was even stronger than the rumors, and even stranger, he had no chance at all. He sighed sorrowfully, raised the giant axe in his hand, and prepared to commit suicide. He knew that if he fell into the hands of this man, he would definitely regret living in this world. Rather than living a life worse than death, it was better to end it early and not suffer the torture. I didn't agree. Do you think you can die? Do you think my name Hand of Control is just for show? My Hand of Control, not only can I control the enemy's life, I can also control the enemy's death. The strange man with the voice like an owl and the body of a bat flicked his finger, and a leaf silently floated up, cutting the giant axe in the mercenary leader's hand in half. You've all escaped so far. If you just give up like this, it'll be too boring. How about this? I'll play a game with you. I'll count to 100. If any of you can escape from my sight, then I'll let you go. All of you, stand up and run. Ha ha, how merciful I am. The loud voice that sounded like a broken gong appeared. It was a noble man who was carried by 18 slaves on his shoulders, wearing precious armor, holding fine wine in his hand, and a blood-red cloak fluttering in the wind. Between his knees, there was even a naked female slave nestled at his feet, pouring wine for him. Seeing this man appear, the hearts of all the fugitives were filled with despair. This self-proclaimed merciful man was 10 times more vicious than the guy who liked to control the life and death of others. If he was said to be the cruelest and most tyrannical person in the Tianhua domain, no one in the surroundings would object. No one ran because everyone knew. There was no point in running again. Let's not even talk about whether they could escape from his sight within 100. Even if they could, this guy would not keep his promise. The crowd was dead silent. Only the little girl who was hugging her brother lowered her head, squeezed out of the crowd, and ran forward with all her might. Yes, 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 just like that. Run a little faster, faster. I'm going to count soon. Don't you want to live like her? I'll give you this chance. Everyone run. I'm only counting to 1 now. Pay attention. I'm only counting to 1. When I count to 100, if any of you can escape from my sight, I'll spare your lives. What a pity. Not a single one of you responded to my suggestion. You're making this city lord very unhappy. Can't you just struggle a little and give me a little pleasure? Fortunately, there's still a little girl participating in my game. Haha, not bad. I like people who always have hope in their hearts. If I can kill the hope in a person's heart, that would be such a happy thing. Alright, now it's time to count to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, little girl, you have to run faster, faster, haha, after that, it's 7, 8, 9, what about after that? Of course it's 100. Alright, little girl, you also know that I'm not very good at counting. It's such a pity that you haven't run out of my sight when I count to 100, you should be faster. Let go. A slave's figure flashed, and the little girl was grabbed back like a little chick, thrown under the golden throne. The starving people covered their faces, unable to bear to watch. They already knew that this guy would not be trusted, but what could they do? Without power there was no right or wrong. The little girl cried, she hugged her little brother tightly in her arms, sobbing, after 9 is 10, not 100. The current her was still serious, although she was sensible, she was still a child, after all, and did not understand why the other party broke his promise. The middle-aged man sitting on the golden throne laughed loudly, tears splashing out from his eyes. He patted the armrest of the throne. That's right, after 9 is 10, not 100, but I like to count 100 in advance, can't I? I didn't say that I had to count all of them, ha ha ha. Do you think this city lord is particularly hateful? Do you feel particularly wronged? Be a little sadder, or perhaps a little angrier. I like to see your gazes of anger but not daring to speak up. Haha, little pitiful worms, trampling you is this city lord's greatest joy. Seeing the weak like you being tortured to death under my feet, I feel a great sense of accomplishment. You will never understand, this is a sense of accomplishment unique to expert. What is an expert? Someone who can control the fate of others at will. Do you still want to play? The strange man with a voice like a night owl and a body like a bat seemed to frown. Don't be nervous, no one will come here, and besides, this place has long been abandoned by the king, becoming an abandoned land. Even if these weak ants die, who will care? It's rare for us to come out for a breath of fresh air. If we don't play to our heart's content, we will immediately go back. It will be too much of a waste of an opportunity, you know. It has been a long time since anyone dared to run away. The middle-aged man sitting on the golden throne laughed loudly. Then, up to you. The man with a voice like a night owl and a body like a bat shook his head, fluttering to the side. Come, first, peel off the skin of this little girl, pay attention, do not damage it, it must be intact. As for that baby, he is too thin, there is nothing to eat, dig out his heart and liver and roast it. Also, I want to eat Sweetbrain, don't make me salty like last time. The middle-aged man sitting on the golden throne ordered casually. Don't kill me, I beg you, spare us. The little girl was so scared that she fell to the ground, paralyzed, and a slave came over, wanting to dig out the baby's heart. Only then did she jump up with a scream, pouncing towards the slave, opened her mouth, and used her only weapon, using her teeth to bite the enemy. This was the only way she could fight back. Although it was useless, it was still resistance, unlike the starving people and mercenaries who were numbly waiting for death. The mercenary captain secretly took out a dagger, but before he could commit suicide, he found that his whole body was paralyzed, his whole body stiff, unable to blink even if he wanted to. As expected, in front of the enemy who had the ability of manipulative hand, suicide was impossible. If he could not die, his ending would probably be no better than the little girl's. It's over, everything is over. I admire this kind of resistance. If everyone is like this, then this city lord will definitely not be bored. Before peeling off her human skin, first pry out her teeth one by one. Pay attention, the roots of the teeth can't be broken, they must be pried out completely. Each one must be intact, I want to collect. The middle-aged man sitting on the golden throne drank a glass of wine with satisfaction, and then made a temporary adjustment. First pry out the teeth, then peel off the skin, this way there would be 2 collectibles. just as the slave took out a sharp knife, preparing to pry out the teeth. Its body swayed slightly. Suddenly it fell to the ground. It fell to the ground, and after a few seconds, it split into two halves from head to toe. What happened? The middle-aged man sitting on the golden throne was stunned, the wine in his hand spilled. Who did it? Someone actually killed someone in front of him, and could do it so secretly. It was simply silent, killing without a trace. A shadow flew over from afar, and under the watchful eyes of everyone, landed beside the little girl, reached out and picked her up. Fortunately, you are not hurt. This damned place is too annoying, we can't even teleport, idiot, we were almost late, what are you waiting for? Move immediately, kill all these guys, no, take them down first, pry out their teeth and peel off their skin, I am too angry. The person who came was, of course, Princess Sisai. The angry tigress was definitely not someone to be trifled with. The current her, it could be said that she was extremely angry. The shadow that appeared behind, however, was not Yu Yang, but Feng Ji, the poor thief who claimed to be unparalleled in speed, but could not keep up with Princess Sisai's flight. As for Yu Yang, he had unknowingly sat on the back of the golden throne. Not only did he sit on the back of someone else's chair, he even crossed his legs and directly stepped on the middle-aged man's shoulder, using a treasure to confine space, right? Making this young master late for the first time in his life. How are you going to compensate me? Teeth and human skin are of no use. This young master's noble taste is not something a piece of trash like you can compare to. What? That middle-aged man immediately became angry. Someone actually dared to step on his shoulder? This was simply courting death. He jumped up, exploding with all of his strength. He exploded towards Yu Yang. Chapter 926. The one with the fastest speed was not the middle-aged man that Yu Yang had stepped on, but the strange man with a voice like an owl and a body like a bat. He stretched out his hand. A strange light wind swirled around him, and a few fallen leaves immediately sped up and flew towards Yu Yang as if they were summoned beasts. However, the hand of manipulation that had never failed suddenly failed. It was as if the strings of a marionette had been cut by a pair of scissors, causing it to lose control. The fallen leaves that had flown halfway were all blown away by the wind, without any strength left. The strange man who had stretched out his hand of manipulation to control other people's life and death had an expression as if he had been punched by someone. He was extremely shocked. At the same time, there was a layer of shame and anger on his face that could only be seen after being humiliated. He stared at Yu Yang. The middle-aged man who claimed to be the city lord and was sitting on the golden seat also had eyes that were spitting fire as he punched fiercely towards Yu Yang. Welcome to my game. I guarantee that you will definitely feel very happy. If Yu Yang was hit by him, then he wouldn't be the Yu clan's third young master who could even kill the Empress and Qi Tianhe. If he were to attack seriously, he could definitely kill the enemy instantly. However, Yu Yang didn't do that. This was because he wanted to give this enemy, who liked to use human lives to play games, a surprise. If Yu Yang's specialties were to be ranked, his godly skill in picking up girls that everyone envied would probably not be ranked first. However, if there was one speciality that was ranked second, then none of his other specialties would be able to surpass it. That was torturing people. Because he didn't have the heart of a bodhisattva, he was thick-skinned, smart, and had a unique way of thinking. As a result, Yu Yang, who was different from the others, was able to deal with his enemies more smoothly and nimbly than before. In the process of continuously fighting, exploring and growing, Yu Yang had gradually formed his own style. Yu Yang's style was to return an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Many great people could do it. They would slap the left side of their face, and then send the right side of their face to be slapped by the other side, repaying evil with good and reforming the enemy. Many people who were not great but had a broad mind could also be magnanimous and magnanimous. Even if a dog bit a man, the man would not bite the dog back. At most, he would take a detour and would not lower himself to the dog's level. Yu Yang naturally understood these principles. But understanding doesn't necessarily mean doing it. According to Yu Yang's style of doing things, if someone slapped his left cheek once, he would return the favor and slap the other party 10 times. If he was not satisfied, he would chop off the other party's hand. However, there were times when things were different. If it was a dog that bit a man, Yu Yang would definitely not bite the dog 10 times, but would directly chop off the dog's head. After all, in Yu Yang's heart, there was still a difference between a man and a dog. The middle-aged man who liked to play games just now had met Yu Yang. His luck had come, because Yu Yang had decided to play with him. Play games? Who wouldn't? Actually, I don't really like roasted hearts and livers. Sweet brains are also passable. But when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Don't worry, after eating this meal, I will spread the news to my companions. If they also want to try, I will introduce your family and friends to them. I believe that your family and friends are just like you, they are all passionate and hospitable. Yu Yang dodged and cleverly dodged the heavy punch in midair. He then casually landed on the back of the golden chair and sat down. The middle-aged man's fist did not hit, so he became even more furious. His voice was like thunder. He leapt high into the sky and used all the strength in his body. The shock wave that was emitted shook the entire Red Wolf forest, and his imposing manner fell like a mountain. The starving people on the ground almost suffocated. If they had not huddled together and used their collective strength to resist, with their individual strength, they would have been crushed into a meat patty by this kind of terrifying power. The middle-aged man looked as if he wanted to destroy the whole earth. He swooped down from a height of a few hundred meters and heavily punched the ground. The man and the fist were still in midair, but all the starving people were already vomiting blood from the pressure. If it was not for Princess Sisai, who was holding the little girl and the baby, dodging to the sides of the starving people and raising her domain of power, these starving people who were scared out of their wits and those frightened mercenaries would have all been smashed into pieces by the shockwave of this punch. The golden seat at the center of the punch. It smashed straight into the ground. The 17 slaves who were carrying the golden seat all had their tendons and bones broken. In the midst of their screams, blood flowed out of their 7 orifices. In the end, their bodies exploded and turned into clouds of blood mist. On the other hand, the female slave who reacted quickly escaped from the center of the attack in a sorry state. Her naked body fell into a pile of sand. Seeing that the fist was about to hit him, Yu Yang was still sitting very calmly on the back of the chair. It was as if he did not see anyone attacking him at all. Little Wen-li appeared in a flash. Her beautiful big eyes stared. The heavy punch that was 1 meter away from hitting Yu Yang's head, along with the middle-aged man's whole body, instantly stopped in midair. The strange man with a voice like an owl and a body like a bat saw this scene and was dumbfounded. He could not believe his eyes. He was very clear about his companion's strength. Even if he had the hand of control, he would not have the upper hand in comparison. But, such a powerful companion's full-strength attack was actually stopped by the opponent's eyes? Wasn't this kind of inherent skill too terrifying? Could it be that this little lowly serpent demon— no, this is a mythical beast, this is not an ordinary serpent demon. Realizing that the opponent had a mythical beast, the strange man was so scared that he immediately wanted to escape. What a joke! Fighting against a mythical beast. No matter how many lives you have, it would not be enough. The man with a voice like an owl and a body like a bat turned around and prepared to increase his speed to escape from this red wolf forest. However, behind him, there was already an ice serpent demon holding a war blade, staring at him coldly. The strange man with the body like a bat turned around again, wanting to escape to the side. However, when he turned around, he realized that there was also a thunder naga on his side. He looked around and realized that he was already surrounded. On the other side, there was also a storm mermaid and a stone element Medusa. He did not know when these powerful creatures had arrived, but they were so fast that even he, the hand of control, who controlled everything on the battlefield, did not notice them at all. If he did not escape, he would die. The strange man with the body like a bat seemed to know what was going to happen next. If he was attacked by these four powerful creatures together, even if he did not die, he would definitely be heavily injured and fall to the ground. Escape, I have to escape this place as soon as possible. The strange man with the body like a bat used all his strength to soar into the sky. He desperately rushed into the sky, wanting to break out of the encirclement and escape to a safe place thousands of miles away. In order to survive, he did not care about anything. As for his companion, let that playful fellow die. If it was not for his arrogant words that angered the strong, he would not have been implicated like this. Rumble! Above the 9 heavens, a lightning bolt as thick as a barrel struck down and directly hit the strange man's head. The strange man, whose body was charred black, fell down like a meteor and smashed onto the ground. The terrifying lightning bolt not only almost smashed his head into pieces, the strong electric current also charred his whole body, causing him to twitch uncontrollably. Ah! The strange man with the body like a bat struggled to move a finger. A light breeze, as light as breathing, blew past him without a sound. It was as if an invisible rope had been thrown from afar in the forest and wrapped around the strange man's body. Then, it forcefully pulled back and pulled the strange man's charred body into the distance. Whoosh! A sharp arrow accurately nailed into the back of the strange man's wriggling hand. This was the masterpiece of the stone element Medusa. That hand instantly turned gray and petrified. At the same time, it quickly spread to his arm and elbow. On the other side, the hand of control, that no one had ever seen or seen before, was suddenly exposed. The power of petrification not only petrified the strange man's hand, but also his ability. 5 thin lines appeared on the strange man's hand and extended into the distant forest. These were originally invisible existences. Now, under the innate ability of the stone element Medusa, they had also turned into stone lines. As for the middle-aged man who attacked Yu Yang, he was still frozen in midair and could not move at all. Little Wenli, who possessed a godly body and could even bind the awesome Qi Tianhe for a second, wanted to use the divine beast's will and binding innate ability to take down this middle-aged man who was an unknown city lord. It was simply easier than eating beans. If she was willing, it wouldn't be a problem to set it for 2 to 3 hours. Yu Yang did not care about the fellow above him. Instead, he angrily criticized the strange man who wanted to escape. You disappoint me. How can you do this? If you want to escape, just say it. How can you escape secretly? When everyone heard this, they were speechless. Could it be that if he wanted to escape, he had to shout, "Pay attention, I'm going to escape"? The bat-like strange man was originally in despair, but now he felt a trace of hope. Could it be that Yu Yang wanted to release him? Yu Yang's expression was very serious. He put up a finger and said, "Actually, it's not that you're not allowed to escape. On the contrary, I encourage you to escape. Let's continue the game we were playing just now. Fengji, come and count from 1 to 100. Take note, don't count too little. You must count accurately. If you can escape from my sight within 100, then you'll be free." He ordered Fengji to go forward and count as he snapped his fingers. The middle-aged man, who was originally frozen in mid-air, crashed into the ground with a loud bang following the snap of his fingers. The shockwave almost destroyed a large part of the surrounding forest. However, no one was shocked by the middle-aged man's terrifying power anymore. Furthermore, everyone started to understand what the two demons, the strange man and the middle-aged man, were going to face next. It was an even more terrifying punishment. A rancor who liked to return a tooth for a tooth and an eye for an eye was preparing to carry out a punishment that would satisfy everyone. It turned out that the game suggested by the enemy was being returned to them to vent his hatred. Furthermore, he was still continuing to humiliate them. "Boss, can I count? Can I?" Feng Ji was a little excited, but also a little uneasy. What if he messed up? "If you can't, then I'll fire you." Yu Yang always forbade his subordinates from saying no. "Don't, I'll count, okay? I'm really counting?" He raised his head to look at Princess Sisai again. The quick-witted him had already realized that this mistress also had the right to speak. The degree to which Master Titan doted on her was incomparable to the wives of ordinary Heaven Realm rankers. So much bullshit. Although Princess Sisai often quarreled with Yu Yang in private, she had always forbade people from questioning him in public. "Run, if you don't run, you'll lose your life. If you don't want to become my collection of teeth and skin, then you should start running now. This merciful young master will give you this chance. I forgot to tell you, I agree with what you said just now. Pitiful worms, trampling you is my greatest joy. Seeing the weak you die under my feet, I feel a great sense of achievement. You will never understand, this is a special sense of achievement that only a rancor has." What is a rancor? A rancor who can control other people's fate at will. Yu Yang repeated the words that the middle-aged man had said when he was arrogant, without holding anything back. This kind of face-slapping was worse than death. The problem was, the middle-aged man and the strange man had no chance to refute. Just like the difference between them and the starving people, although their strength was at heaven rank, compared to Yu Yang, they were powerless. No matter what Yu Yang wanted to do, they could only wait helplessly for death. The strange man knelt on the ground powerlessly, while the middle-aged man's face was ashen and his whole body trembled. Now, they started to feel the despair of the starving people just now. They started to understand the fear in the hearts of those ants that they killed in the past. They had already understood how pitiful it was to be abandoned by fate. If they could turn back, they would definitely not chase after these fleeing starving people. They would not even happily kill those pitiful worms that crawled under their feet and begged for mercy. If they could turn back, they would regret everything that happened today, everything that happened in the past. However, there was no possibility of starting again in this world. Vomit, vomit, vomit. When he thought that he might be like the slaves that were killed in the past, having his teeth pried open, roasted, and brains dug out, the middle-aged man's originally happy heart was suddenly filled with fear and vomited. I really counted, 1, 2, 3. Feng Ji was afraid that his boss, Yu Yang, would be angry, so he quickly counted. What a joke, he was only a temporarily hired guard. If he did not cooperate well, would there be any good consequences in the future? Moreover, these two notorious fellows, it was not too much to torture them. Evil people needed to be tortured by evil people. These two fellows deserved to meet Master Titan, this evil person. They had probably done too many bad things and were cursed by others. Now retribution had come. The strange man, who was trembling all over, suddenly raised his hand and swiped at his neck. He wanted to commit suicide. A few leaves turned into blades in an instant. However, the moment he swiped at his neck, Yu Yang snapped his fingers. Those blade-like leaves burned and turned into smoke, disappearing without a trace. The strange man's skin did not have a single scar, it was as good as new. He wanted to die, but the right to decide was no longer in his hands. Without my permission, do you think you can commit suicide? Do you think that my name, Master Titan, is just for show? My Master's Titan hand can not only control the enemy's life, it can also control the enemy's death. Yu Yang looked as if he was doing psoas training. With his hands on his waist, he proudly returned all of the strange man's words back to him. To be able to slap his face to such an extent, it could be considered one of a kind. Of course, this was just the beginning. If Yu Yang could torture his enemies until they vomited, he would definitely not mind torturing them until they cried. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.